found it's Sandra. Some will call her late at night just to say that there is a fight, and she will not just leave it alone. She'll get up and call on the phone, and when politics starts on her show, everyone really wants to know the way the things will really go with Sandra. And some will start to criticize, get on the show and tell pure lies, but someday we'll realize it's Sandra. And when they start to argue again, she'll pull the heads to the wind, and soon you will be a friend of Sandra. 'Cause every day everyone wanna hear from Sandra. 'Cause every day everyone wanna hear from Sandra. 'Cause every day everyone got to hear from Sandra. 'Cause every day everyone got to hear from Sandra.
People talking, what are they talking about? This world's gone crazy, and I'm trying to find a way out. Nobody knows where we're going, or if we're going at all. Nobody cares if we stand, if we have nowhere to fall. It's a singing symphony, playing as the ship goes down. It's a porcelain epiphany, breaking if it hits the ground. I gotta find a way out. So many questions answered without an answer to tell. Too many things on my mind for anything to go well. It's a singing symphony, playing as the ship goes down. It's a porcelain epiphany, breaking if it hits the ground. I gotta find a way out.
Good morning, Cayman. Happy Thursday. Yesterday, I thought it was Thursday, and somebody said, no, honey child, today's still Wednesday. And I said to myself, what? OMG. Oh my goodness. I'm all sorts of confused with the days now. And we are going to be heading straight into the holiday season here shortly. Thanksgiving next week, American Thanksgiving, closely followed by Cayman Thanksgiving. And then, yeah, after that, we've got Christmas, hot on our heels. And then the new year, 2026. Oh my gosh, where's the time going? It's 2026. I'm going to make that sink in. It's going to be. Hopefully we all make it, honey Joe. But that's so wild. That is just absolutely wild to me. When I was a kid, I had not long moved to Florida. So I was probably about 10, 11 years old. And I remember everybody was talking about 2000 and like we were trying to figure out as kids how old we'd be, like when we got to like university and just all this kind of stuff. So I was sitting there counting on my fingers, right? And even counting to like the 90s, this would have been the 80s. So counting to the 90s and 2000, you're like running out of fingers. You know, when you're a kid, that's how you learn how to count with those little fingers in a chair. And I was running out of fingers and I was like, oh my gosh, that's such a far ways off. And wow, can I just tell you, here we are in a blinkety blink blink. That's how quickly the time goes by. You just blink and then that's it. Wowee. Let me just check and see where our guests are. Give me 1 second here. Trying to figure this out. Okay, they said they're trying to access the link. All right, let me give you an alternative link because I don't know. Let me just double check something here. Hold on. All right. Let me just see here. Might have to get them to refresh. Okay, give me a second. Okay, I think I see what's going on. Yes, this may have changed. No, that's the same thing. Strange. Okay, let me just test it out really quickly and see what's going on. And then we're gonna get our guests in the studio. So yeah, so folks, time flies quickly. Yeah, it's working for me. Okay. All right. And you just click on allow. Let me just see if it's the right studio. Hold on. Yep, it let me in. Everything's working. Everything is working. Okay. I just tested it. All right. Let me just have a look here. Okay, so okay. Okay, maybe I'll just send them an alternative link just in case, but I just confirmed that that one is definitely working. So I'm not quite sure what is going on there. Ooh, let me change my, I see him coming up as a, coming up as a circle, not a square. We're normally circle people, but for the purposes of this little bit here, we are a square. Okay. All right. So let's give them a few minutes to figure that out. All right. A wallet has been found. If you have lost a wallet, it says daring, let's be adventurers. You got to tell me what's in the wallet, but I think you're going to be very pleased to see that someone has actually found your wallet. We'll post this on social media just in case that person is not listening to the show. We can alert them. Your wallet has been found. All right. Very good. Okay. Let me just give these people an alternative code, but that other one is working. Okay. All right. Soon come, I think. All right. Right. So I'm waiting on everybody to get in. Sometimes it takes a minute. Okay. All right. No worries. Alrighty. Okay. So we're going to post the lost wallet here in just a second. Please, can I beg y'all a favor? If you see a lost and found item and you know the person, just alert them, because some people wait. We had a guy this week messaging me about something, a Jamaican driver's license that we posted September the 3rd. I'm like, September the 3rd in the world of social media posts is a really long time. And it's difficult to backtrack and remember who found it and so on and so forth. So try to, if you lose something, the problem is some people don't even know that they have lost what they've lost. Like I've had so many people say, oh my gosh, I saw this on CMR and I had no idea I lost it. But do try to reach out to us. The sooner, the better. Because, we get a lot of messages. We do a lot of posts. So for me to remember something that was posted September 3rd is a really, really long time. All right. I see one of our guests. We're going to wait until hopefully another two show up. Perhaps just check to see where you're. I'm in contact with one who's in traffic. He's trying to log on. So check to see where Miss Donna is, please. And then that way we can all get started together. Okay, beautiful. Phone lines. Oh gosh, let me check my phone. Is it charged? Yeah, still got a little bit of charge left. So I feel like this phone doesn't quite hold as great a charge as it used to. I'm going to have to go to Dennis there at Cellular World and get him to sort me out with probably a new battery. But sometimes you feel like you just might as well update the phone. Not that it's bad, but because it's busy. We get show phone calls all the time on it. And this phone is only used for that purpose. So I'm not as motivated to update it, because that's money. Money that we got to be saving. Good morning, Sir Marshall. How are you, honey child? I went to Koshu yesterday. Big shout out to Mary, the manager there. They had a really, really busy day. I'm going to show you guys some footage later. I'm actually going to post it on social media. They had a super busy day. Lots of good TV sales. And if you're in the market for TV, this is the time of year now to get on it, because the deals are amazing. So she also had those yellow storage containers. They're like $10 or something ridiculous. Really good price. And lots of people were grabbing those up. So much so that she had to send her guy out to the container to get more. So I'm like, wow. Yeah, pretty amazing. So the sales are on, folks. Shop around and see what's what. But I find that they have really, really competitive pricing. Like it's hard to beat. Like their pricing, I'd be like, ooh, Mary, you got it going on, honey, chill. So I did a little walkthrough there yesterday. And they were busy. And now that we're coming into the holiday season, things will get even busier as we head into Christmas, because it's a great time to start prepping now for your Christmas holidays. They got all sorts of like baskets you can buy. Those of you who have clients and you need to buy stuff for your clients, like little gifts and whatever, to thank them. A lot of businesses do that. They thank them for their services. This is a great opportunity to go ahead and get those. You can probably even ask her for a discount if you're buying enough of them. All right, I see two people. Miss Donna, shall we wait for? Let me just see. Okay, I think one more is coming. So let's just give him a few minutes. Okay, so while we're doing that, let's go ahead and probably just lay down a couple ground rules here this morning in terms of the conversation. Of course, I always tell people everybody's free to call in with their opinion. We don't have to agree with each other's opinion, but we will certainly aim to always do so respectfully. And that's all that we can ask. Now, this one is around religion. So I know that some people get very, very emotive about religious discussions. And so I'm just going to ask you to keep your emotions intact a little bit. And yeah, that's all I can say. I'm getting my vinegar water ready. I'm trying to drink that every morning now as a part of my daily routine. One day we'll deep dive into this, but I've told you guys why already. So good morning to all of you. We got Damaris joining us from New York, Marshall from North Carolina, Miss Bonnie. She says good morning to Sandra and the listening public. We've got Island Pearl, Patricia Blake is in the house. Strong Wilt is here. Wee. Good morning, honey chill. Robert joining us. Miss Deborah Bodden. Evelyn is here. Flora says she's watching. Miss Dawn is here. Abby, Johan in the back of the corner, in the naughty corner. Johan, I got to tell you, I wonder as a kid how much you were in that naughty corner. Oh my gosh. That teacher probably got tired of sending you in the corner. Island Pearl said, I saw people's carts literally filled with the yellow top storage containers and suitcases in the space of 10 minutes. 20 people came and grabbed the boxes of I know. I've got footage of when they opened. We'll share it later, but yeah, it's interesting. That people, as the doors opened, they were there and waiting. I don't think that I have ever queued up. As much as I love a bargain, I cannot recall ever in my life queuing up for like outside waiting for a place to open. I am just not that person. I'm sorry. Yes, I love a good bargain just as much as anybody else, but yeah, it's a bit crazy. All right, can you guys check on Marco and see how close he is to coming on? Maybe somebody, Donna, maybe one of you can give him a quick call just to make sure he's going to be joining us. Oh, he says he's entering now. Okay. Mirror Star, good morning. Oh, I should tell you, Mirror Star, that today we're sponsoring our seniors lunch there in Georgetown. So come on out. I know you like to come and play dominoes with the seniors and stuff as well. So I will be there. I have a 1:30, I think it is, on West Bay Road. So I honestly can't really stay too long today. So I'll do the food drop off. We're going to do curry chicken. We've been so busy that the last couple times we could only sponsor like pizza. I'm so sorry. I know the seniors prefer some good home cooking. So Miss Stacy is in the kitchen today, and we're doing some nice curry chicken and all the sides. Hopefully some brownies, curry chicken, rice and white rice. What else we got? Mac and cheese. So we can hook them up today because I know it's been a minute. Mr. Mille said, "Oh, you crosses! You're not bringing us no cooked food." We're back. We're back in the saddle. All right, our guests are ready. So let's go ahead and start the conversation. So let me just backtrack and explain why we have members of the Muslim community on the show today and why we're going to, engage them in conversation. Well, I think it's great. And I think it's something that, quite frankly, they probably should have been here before, before any drama. But lately, and when I say lately, I mean quite a number of months now, I have been getting a lot of people reaching out to me, having derogatory things to say about the Muslim community. When I say the Muslim community, I'm not talking about the Muslim community here in the Cayman Islands. I think people are just caught up in their feelings because of, some of it is religious prejudices. Some of it is they just don't like Muslims and whatever. And, they buy into a lot of the things that are said about Muslim people, which, I mean, we've had this conversation before, because if you guys are purveyors of history and you pay attention, I hate to tell you, but Christians historically have been no better than what some of you are claiming that Muslims are into and what they do and all this kind of stuff. But it is very dangerous to categorize people as an entire group, because in any organization or any group, you will find good, bad, and I suppose in between. So when I gave you examples of, Christian religious sects, which there's so many that it's ridiculous, that are involved in behavior that is untowards, even when it comes to children and underage kids, and they use the religion and the good book to justify their actions. Christianity justified slavery at one point. Historically, it's just madness. And there are people who are listening who don't believe in any of this foolishness. They're atheists, and they're like, Sandy, this is what the problem is with religion. It makes people crazy. And they will, defend their position, right or wrong, by hating on others and spreading a lot of misinformation on the other group to try to make their religious beliefs somehow more attractive, if that's a thing. So I have had people reach out to me, and I got to tell you, I really have not felt the vibe in terms of, oh, we have too many Muslims in Cayman and they're trying to snatch our children and they're going to turn them into this, that, and the next thing. And just for frankness and full disclosure, when people have reached out to me with these things, I have really, I'm not in a position to defend any religious sector or community, but I've really tried to look at this from a holistic position and said, are you serious? Is this really a serious thought here in the Cayman Islands? Because first of all, I cannot imagine that we really have that many Muslims even in Cayman. And then they started talking. And when you come to me and you have these very emotive conversations and then you get your facts wrong, I start to tune you out, because then it makes no sense. So immediately, in one instance, they started, for example, to talk about, and all the people at Health City, they're Muslims. I'm like, actually, they're not. The majority of those people would not be Muslims at all. They're either Christians or Hindus or, and so y'all are so confused that you don't even know what the heck a Muslim is. So you can't come to me hating on people and then mislabeling who even falls into that category. No, I'm like, yeah, that's not going to work. So from months ago, I had reached out to someone who I happen to know is a Muslim. I said, not for nothing, but it might be time for you guys to start to have conversations within the community to bridge that gap. Because what I know about human beings is we have a tendency to look for the differences between us, like what's different and what separates us, as opposed to there could be 99% of things we have in common. And if we have one thing that's different, human beings tend to focus on that one thing. And that would include things like religious beliefs, political beliefs, and that sort of thing, right? So I had suggested to them that maybe they have ways of reaching out to the community, put faces to who you are, let people know, what your religion is all about. If you want to share that, who you are, what you're all about, because I think that is ultimately something that would benefit the local Muslim community. So we have 3 members of the community here today. Now, they're here today because there's been a bit of controversy. And this is what I always tell people. I say, listen, I'm a firm believer, and I tell government this all the time. I tell companies this, get ahead of certain things, right? So it does not make sense for you to sit back and wait until something becomes controversial and then you address it. Because people are like, they're going to be looking at you with this big side eye. So you always got to get ahead of things. And what has now happened is there's a 30-second, I mean, literally a 30-second clip that is in circulation. I started getting it late last week, I think, or over the weekend. And in that clip, I'm going to show it to you guys. In that clip, a member of the Muslim community, and he can kind of explain to us who he is within the community, because I think he might be a senior or a leader or something. I don't really know what the proper terms are, but we'll speak to him in just here in a second. And in that community, he said certain things that made Caymanians in particular really upset. And then they started to call me. And so I'm going to let you listen to it, and then we're going to break it down, and we're going to have, I think it's Nobana. I think it's how it's pronounced. We're going to have him come on and explain this. But Nobana, do me a favor, actually pull your camera down. I'm seeing a little bit too much of the ceiling. All those ceiling tiles. There we go. That's, try it again. Yeah, that's better. Okay. All right. So here's the clip.
Get 4 units. It could be a possibility of a daycare facility, which is important, especially for more people are maybe planning on families, raising families on island. And it's one of the things that pulls people away from the island as well, in the sense that, when you calculate all the costs of a child and now putting them in daycare, especially when parents are working. Now, inshallah, if you work on that, number one, you're avoiding a Christian environment. You're avoiding a nanny who might be Christian. You're avoiding all of this non-Muslim environment for your child to grow in. She's come to the masjid, no issue with food, all these kind of things.
All right. So it is that last bit, and we'll talk about whatever this project is. And then we see that someone, I'm assuming, has put an overlay on this that says Muslims with their children. And so there is a sense, let me go ahead and bring in Nobana, and please correct me if I'm mispronouncing that. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. It's good to see you. So that is actually you in the video. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So first of all, tell us within the Muslim community, what is your position?
So I am the name is Nuh. So Nuh is the Arabic for Noah.
Okay.
Just like the biblical prophet Noah.
Uh-huh.
I'm the Imam. So the Imam is like the pastor, the religious leader of the community. I lead the prayers and deliver the sermons, etc. I've been here for 3 years now. So It's been 3 years I've been here, yeah. I'm the first ever Imam or Muslim leader on the island.
Ah, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. That just shows how young a community we are.
Yes, for sure. So in that position, you said you're the first, so that means that you're also the only one, right?
Yeah.
So what is it exactly that you do as the religious leaders? Is it the same thing that they would do in Christian communities? You're bringing sermons, lessons. What do you do?
Yeah, it's more or less the same. I would say as a priest, a pastor, is the delivering of the sermons, teaching the children, the adults. We'll hold different lectures, different seminars. We'll try to work with humanitarian and charity work as well. We do a lot of that, and I obviously lead all of that. Then there's a bit of social work as well, counseling between maybe parents and children or couples and all these kind of things, and then a bit of interfaith work as well. Okay.
All right. We're going to bring in we're going to go ahead and introduce and bring in the other members as well, so that then we can sort of open up for questions and sort of go through this video. We have Miss Donna Kay, who is joining us. Good morning, Miss Donna.
Good morning, everyone.
How are you?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very good. So Donna, tell us just a little bit about who you are. I mean, you're obviously a member of the Muslim community. Are you in a leadership role, or just a member? How does that work?
No, I don't hold an official position. I'm just a member at the moment, but
Okay.
no less important, of course. So I'm a Caymanian. I was born here, raised here, and I've been a Muslim for 13 years now.
Okay.
And I continue to learn and improve on a daily basis.
Okay. All right. Yes, I heard a little accent in there, and I thought for sure that sounds like a Caymanian to me. We also have Marco who is joining us. Good morning, Marco. How are you?
Hi, good morning, Miss Sandra. How you doing?
Not too
Morning
bad.
to the wider Cayman community as well.
Yes, morning. So, Marco, again, tell us a little bit about your journey. Did you grow up a Muslim? We hear that Caymanian accent, so we doubt that's the case. But tell us a little bit about who you are in the organization.
Yeah, so I'm not a member of the committee. I'm just a fellow worshiper. I happen to have reverted to Islam about 3 years ago while I was in university in the UK. So whilst I was over there, I was introduced to Islam, and I started my research and stuff. But I was raised as a Catholic, so both my parents and my family still Catholics. We used to go to St. Ignatius Church there on Walker's Road. Um, and my journey with religion and stuff, was a bit rocky at first, because I used to take my beats from my mother for not going to church. But um, I ended up, saying that this is the way I want to live my life, obeying and being a God fearing man. And to answer your question, yes, ma'am, I am reside from East End. I've been East End all my life. So when I left for university, I left from East End, come back in the same story. So that's just a little bit about myself.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you so much. So let's break this down. And I think, Nobana, the first question that somebody said is, are you here in the capacity of the pastoral role full time? Is that what you do? Like that's your job? You're here in a permit as a pastor, or are you doing something else and then you're just a pastor, on the side? So
No, this is my full-time role.
that's your full-time role.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're here and hired, if you will, as a pastor to lead the Muslim organization. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now let's break down this video, because this video really rubbed people the wrong way. So you've been here for 3 years now. How have you, just out of curiosity, how have you found the community, the wider Cayman Islands community since you've been here?
Oh, it's a very nice community. It's a really nice island. I used to actually come yearly from maybe 2017 to lead a certain prayer that we have in the month of Ramadan. So it's where we have to, it's anyone who's memorized the Quran will have to lead it. So because there's nobody who's memorized in the island, they used to invite me. So from that time, it's had a special place in my heart. So it's obviously, it's a beautiful island. The people are very loving, very kind. So that's why I kept getting drawn back. And even people still ask me, like, why did I decide to stay? Moving from UK. So actually, I've come in from the UK. So then I tell them, no, there's something special about this place. It's very nice. It's the people are lovely. The weather, obviously, I'm avoiding the UK's cold. That's a big thing as well. And no, I've really been happy with Cayman as a location, as a place. What we talk as like paradise on in this world. And also the people are amazingly. Actually, my parents, my grandfather he lived in Barbados. So that was the first experience I had with the Caribbean in general.
Okay.
So even in Barbados, they would say, it's a nice island, but, it's not 100% safe. You have to be careful with certain things wherever. And so maybe I came with that mindset first in Cayman, but I realized it's a very different place. This is now much safer, much more welcoming, much more comforting.
Very interesting. All right. So I'm glad to see that you found, which most people I think, would share the sentiments when they come to Cayman. They find that the community, the culture here, everything is very welcoming. And so I want to talk now about this video. Let me just play it one more time, because like I said, it's only 30 seconds and I don't know how long this entire session was. So I hope you can tell us a little bit about this project that you're talking about, and then, you know, what it is that you were saying, because I think the part that rubs people wrong is where you give this statement or this not impression, it's a statement that you don't want your children mingling with Christian children or Christian helper or whatever. So let's listen to it again.
Be a possibility of a daycare facility, which is important, especially for more people are maybe planning on families, raising families on island, and it's one of the things that pulls people away from the island as well, in the sense that, you know, when you calculate all the costs of a child and now putting them in daycare, especially when parents are working. Now, inshallah, if you work on that, number one, you're avoiding a Christian environment. You're avoiding a nanny who might be Christian. You're avoiding all of this non-Muslim environment for your child to grow in. You come to the masjid, no issue with food, all these kind of things.
All right. So talk to us a little bit, Nobana, about this. What is this? It feels like you're being separatists. And so, you know, you say in the video, the children won't have to mix with Christian children or Christian nanny, and there won't be issues of food or whatever. So kind of explain to us what this is really all about.
Right. So, I mean, first of all, obviously, we know that that clip is taken out of a much longer video. It's more than an hour. And anytime we clip something, it's always going to have a context. But obviously, the words are still clear. So the words are not there to be misinterpreted. We are talking about, because we're in a small unit in the Cayman Business Park, for those who know. So obviously, we're talking about we need a slightly bigger space just to accommodate our community. So that was a presentation on that project. We could discuss that later. So then I was just talking about how one of the uses that we could potentially have with this location is is a daycare facility potentially. I mean, it's a long goal because there's a lot of regulations and a lot of requirements, of course. And the reason and then in the clip I say that the one is that you'll save on costs, of course. The second thing I say is that now that's the last, even though it's a 30-second clip, I guess the controversial part is probably the last 10 or 7 seconds, right? So in there, I do mention that, you know, they will avoid, the first thing I say is probably a Christian daycare. I don't know if there's a fully Christian daycare, but I guess I said that, and Christian nannies. So and then the next thing I say also is that they'll have no issue with halal food. So these two things are linked. And what I was trying to say is that as Muslim, as we are raising our children, especially at a very young age, we do have certain beliefs and certain practices that we want to obviously hold on to, especially at the beginning. These are fundamental. These are some things that, especially at a young age, we want our children to hold on to them. Later on, they will be exposed to a world. The world is a global village, of course. You know, you're going to go to a local school, you're going to go to a public school, you're going to mix with all different faiths and cultures. That's not anything we're going to try to segregate or separate. But at least at a young age, we wanted to ensure that our children have some kind of belief system that they are grown with. And then the second thing I mentioned, which is very important, is that it's because we want to eat halal. Because as a Muslim, we just like how other faiths, other denominations, vegans, different people, pescatarians, they all have different kind of diets. So as a Muslim, we also have a certain diet. Now, if you're going to a daycare, they're going to serve whatever food. The child is not going to know what he can eat, can't eat. Similarly, if parents are going to work and a nanny's at home, she's going to cook whatever for the child. Again, you can give him or her certain instructions, and then we can never be 100% sure that they're going to listen to them. So it's more to protect also what they eat. So we have certain regulations, restrictions with regards to our food. For example, you know, alcohol, pork, certain other things that we have to refrain from. So that was the main thing. And then one thing I do obviously want to clarify is that when I said Christian, obviously we're not aiming at any religion. So a Christian was the first thing that came to mind because this is a majority Christian country. It's not anything against Christians at all. It's just saying that at least for the first couple of years of a child's life, we wanted to ensure that, you know, they're making sure their food is right, etc. And if they're going to any place where there's a majority other faith, other culture, then there's the food, etc. The other practices are going to come in. That's the only reason we mentioned Christian, or else it's not singling out Christians at all. And that was. And then one last thing that I would obviously like to mention is that the children going forward, they're going to go to schools that would be local. We actually have many children who are going to different schools across the country, so it's not across the island. So it's not like we're telling them to be segregated, separated, homeschool your children or create separate in education systems and these kind of things for children. So it was never to give that kind of idea. Obviously, it did come out. Probably the wording definitely should have been a lot better. And what I had in mind, again, it was more than an hour program. I was getting a bit tired. It definitely. So I would kind of say there was a misunderstanding, and that's just what my clarification is.
All right, but you can definitely see and understand where if someone sees that clip, they would get the impression that you guys are trying to be separatists, which, this is a predominantly Christian community and country, and we were founded on a Christian value system. So anytime you say, well, we don't want to mingle with Christians, you're basically saying that you don't want to mingle with the vast majority of people on this island. Donna or Marco, feel free to jump in if you guys have any thoughts on this. Was any of you there at the presentation that day?
No, Mom, I wasn't there at the moment on the presentation for that day, but just to kind of add to what Imam Noor said, maybe the choice of words weren't the best, and it's something clipped out from a longer program and a longer schedule that had significant meaning. And I mean, I'll go ahead and say that the Islamic community and the Islamic where we're located right now has always have open forums, open discussions. So they've always invited persons that have friends. Because me myself, I have a lot of friends I went to school with, and sometimes I get them to come around and they listen, and we have a good constructive conversation about religion and about the paths that we choose to live. And I will take this time to say that the door is always open to people, to anybody. To be honest, with you, anybody could come, and whenever they feel like they'll have a time. I think now that we have Imam Noor there now full time, you can go in pretty much any time of the day. But before, I think it will lock. But like I said, I'm still getting familiarized with a lot of the people here as well, because as I said, I've been back now full time home now for a couple months now. So I still getting to know more and more people. So sometimes I'll meet somebody in Foster's and they'd be like, yeah, and I'd be like, oh geez, I didn't even know. So it's just one of them things, So but to answer the question, no, Mom, I wasn't there at the session that night when Imam Noor's had that session. But I mean, as he explained himself, it's just it's something of a wider teaching, because he does deliver teachings. He delivers readings for people, and he teaches Quran to adults and children as well. And also with the eating halal as well, you have many people, Rastafarians eat a certain way, Jews eat kosher, and everybody have their own diet that they follow, and same with halal. Like for me myself, I would like to say that I've been born in I've been pushed into the farming thing from I was a young boy. So my father always had goats in East End. We always had cow. So on that subject too, if anybody want Christmas beef too, like please let me know. So we got some Christmas beef coming up in a couple of weeks. But yeah, halal is just it's another it's another way of how you go about the whole proceeding of processing an animal. And like I said, when I first that really and truly, to be honest with you, that was probably one of my biggest turning point into Islam, is the way how you process animals and respect and regard we must have for them. And when I performed my first qurbani, which is doing the whole halal slaughter, I felt so emotional, like I couldn't go through with it, because I actually cried, because I was like, I'm actually learning the process of why we are on the earth, why animals are on the earth. But I mean, that's a conversation for another day. But that was really
Yeah.
my turning point.
Okay. Let me
So
just ask a question, Noah Bana. What is halal? I mean, I understand it's some sort of dietary thing, but what exactly is it?
Halal is the Muslim, the name for anything that a Muslim is able to eat. So it's the permissibility. It just means something that's permissible, and in Islam is used specifically for food. So for a Muslim, majority of things are halal. All fish, all vegetables, all drinks except alcohol. Yes, we can't eat pork. There's certain other animals that we can't eat that nobody really eats, or generally people don't eat, for example, dogs and cats and these kind of things. And in terms of slaughtering of animals, so slaughtering of cows, goat, sheep, etc., then they have to be slaughtered by either Muslim, Christian, or Jew. So that's our criteria. A Muslim, Christian, or Jew has to slaughter them. So that's basically what halal is.
Oh, okay. So, well, I mean,
And
that
not
covers,
not
I guess that covers most people to be Muslim.
um
Yeah.
Too.
not to cut you there too, Miss Sandy, but just to add to what Imam Noor said too, is like the process as well onto making something halal is the way we you do the cut to the animal as well. There's a certain way, like you said, it could be either Muslim, Christian, or Jew, but they have to use a certain blade, a certain way. They have to cut the jugular vein as well, so it eliminates the taking the animal through a traumatic process of a shot to the head or shocking them or hitting them in the head with a hammer. It eliminates that aspect of it. And when I was saying earlier, like that really, when I went through that process the first time, that really is what made my turning point, for it. And I have a lot of friends that from the community. I have a lot of friends I went to school with that they came to me when I did they came at me when I did my first one here on island, and a lot of them said like, man, I'd rather eat this because I feel like it's a more humane way. But I don't want to start a whole different conversation with that. But to give you the to add to what Imam Noor said, just to kind of give you that clarity on that and the wider listening community as well.
Okay. All right, Miss Donna Kay, were you there at this session?
Yes, Sandy. There were actually 2 meetings. I attended both. And I agree that if you listen to the short clip, 30 seconds, it does give the impression that, we're trying to separate the kids. But when you listen to the entire meeting, the context of it, you get a clear understanding of what the Imam was trying to portray. And one of the meetings was basically a summary, because the first meeting was very detailed. And the second meeting was a summary. So he might have, tried to speed up the synopsis. But I was there at both meetings, and honestly, I did not hear anything that would cause me to have concern. Again, if you listen to the whole meeting, was like over an hour, both meetings. In context, it was very much so geared at the fact that when you have a child, for example, I have a 5-year-old, and they're still learning. And whilst there are a lot of similarities between Islam and Christianity, I think one of the most important concerns that a lot of Muslim parents might have is the food. And not necessarily the food when you're that young. Candies, you wouldn't believe the amount of candies and chips that have pork, gelatin, and a lot of really toxic ingredients. So when you have like a 4-year-old going to a nursery, they might not be as switched on. And likewise, the instructors at the nursery might not be aware, and that's no fault of, their self, they just don't know. So I think the point Imam was trying to make was, in those first few years, let's explain, especially as it relates to food, give them that basic knowledge. And of course, as they get older, they can go into the public school system. I grew up here. I grew up in Town. My family is majority Christian. And we teach our daughter a lot of Christian values that I grew up with. The 10 Commandments, treating other people like you would like to be treated, or principles that are the same in Islam, and our principles that my husband and I are trying to instill in our daughter. So I hope that gives some clarity for the listening public. And rest assured, if something degrading was being said about the Caymanians or the Cayman Islands as a whole, I would have objected immediately.
All right, let's get in some of the questions and comments here now. I said at the onset of this meeting, and I know Marco can't stay the entire segment, so Marco, if you have to leave, that's not a problem. But I said at the onset that we can have this conversation, because when it comes to religious beliefs, and especially one that we see as polar opposite to the Christian belief, which I can tell you, the funny thing is they're probably not that far apart with a lot of different things. But anyway, Christians do feel a particular way that Muslims are so different than them. So we're gonna entertain some questions, but I should tell you that those of you who are getting somebody just said to me that there's a particular commenter in this person's words. Let me just see how they worded it. That basically this person, and they're coming off a bit strong. Well, that's probably the understatement of the century. And so I'm not going to really entertain those comments. You're happy. Obviously, you have freedom of speech, so you can sit there and amongst each other in the social media chat, do that as much as you want. But I'm not going to be reading those comments, and I'm not going to be entertaining those comments here this morning, because we're really trying to set a respectful tone for the conversation, right? So Waking Up the Cayman Islands is here. Sia says Cayman is too small to have a house of two gods. So that's an interesting comment. Leah says it's not two gods. Muslims worship essentially what Christians call the Father. When it comes to this concept that your Muslim beliefs, and I don't really know a whole lot about it, so I'm curious how you guys see it. How different do you see Christians or Christianity than what it is that you guys believe and what you do? Are they really polar opposites? Is that how you would describe the two religions?
I mean, Miss Donna can also chime in on this, because she's obviously come from a Christian background. If Marco is still online, he can also speak about how they've come from Christianity to Islam. I would like to say, and our actions or the present day will speak louder than just words. But we do see Christians as our cousins in faith, which means it's very similar, very close in terms of belief. You can open the Quran, and I can point to verses in the Quran where the Quran talks about how the Quran praises Christians in particular for having soft hearts, for being very close to faith with the believers, because in essence, we still believe in the same God, one God. So the Holy Father that the Christians, some majority of Christians will talk about. The Muslims believe that is the same one God who sent the same prophets. And then our tradition is very similar. We believe in the same angels, Gabriel, etc. We believe in the same prophets, Abraham, Moses. Like I said, my name is Noah. My son's name is Adam. And these are because, again, Miss Donna, her daughter's name is Maryam, which is the Arabic of Mary. So these are all major characters within Christianity and within Islam. So in terms of faith, we are very similar. We believe in resurrection hereafter. These are also, again, some denominations of Christianity are going to believe this. That's in terms of beliefs. In terms of actions, we also have some actions which are similar in terms of some of our prayers, like we mentioned, in terms of the sacrifice as well, and how some parts of Christianity, some people in Christianity, some denominations don't eat pork or these kind of things. So that's also something. Even the fasting is a little similar. So even in practice, we have some similarities. And I would like to say that our religions are very close, and Islam actually gives a lot more liberty to Christianity compared to any other religion. For example, a Muslim in general cannot marry outside faith. So that's just a rule. But the exception is given to Christianity. So a Muslim can marry a Christian. And we actually have within our community Muslims who are married Christians. They're living together. They're raising children. The children are growing on whichever faith they choose. Obviously, when they get to an age when they can choose the faith. In that household, they're probably celebrating Christmas, which they will. And they're probably celebrating Eid. So Eid is the Muslim festivity. So they're celebrating both. So there's definitely households and a environment where there can be very peaceful coexistence in that sense. Actually, just a couple of days ago, I hosted a couple who came in from the cruise ship, and one is a Christian, one is a Muslim, and then we solemnized their marriage, and we're going to get the license done, etc. So in terms of, so if we felt that we are complete opposites and different, this kind of understanding wouldn't be there. So I mean, the actions speak louder than words, because people can say a lot of things, but these are actually how we see it. I mean, obviously, because the other two guests come from that religion, Christianity, they can obviously give maybe a better answer.
Yeah. Okay. Marco or Donna, you want to speak to the what you feel, in your opinion, the similarities? Like, do you see, now that you've converted to Muslim, do you feel like that is completely opposite of what you grew up, learning and being taught in your Christian homes?
guess I'll go first. Sorry, Miss Donna. Yeah, I mean, like I said, when I initially asked my questions at first, I was like, well, what is the role of Jesus in Islam? What is the role of Mary? Do you guys believe in that? When I questioned the imam near my university at the time, he mentioned, the role of Jesus, who in Arabic is known as Isa. And he's like, we have so much regard for Jesus that we can't even say peace. We can't even say his name and not say peace and blessings upon him. So for me that resonated. 'Cause like, man, I come from a household that, we have statues and pictures of him in the house. That's a big belief for us.
Mhm.
So when that was explained, and the way that Islam regarded prophets and stuff, I was like, okay. So I could see where it's a bit more disciplined, and a bit more regarded and respected. And for me, I was like, okay, I feel like this is something that I kind of want to get more into, But like I said, I was raised in a Catholic household. So of course, Catholicism is a bit different than Christianity as well. They have different views, different beliefs.
Right.
Um, but my classmates, my helper, Miss Kim, she was a Christian and everybody. So it has it shares similarities, And like I said, when I have conversations with a lot of friends, they was like, yeah, well, I can see where the similarities are the same. I can see where some people might get confused sometimes and be like, "Oh, well, Muslim mean you from Dubai?" I was like, "No, that's not the case, bro. Everything in Islam has a meaning. I mean, yeah, it comes from it has an Arabic meaning to it, but most of it translate back to English.
Mhm.
Being a Muslim means that you submit to one God and you submit to
Mhm.
one you follow in the teachings of God. But like I mentioned earlier, the doors are always open at the existing compound now that where we are at Cayman Business Center. So if anyone always and I always encourage my friends, so I was like, bro, if you don't have any questions that I can't answer, just come in there and speak to Imam Noor and he'll answer the questions because he's more qualified than me. He more or less more a lot more than me. I'm still learning as well, you
Mhm.
know. I recently got married as well, and my wife plays a big role in my life in teaching me and keeping me on my values as a man and principles as a man and as a Muslim as well. And I just always explain that to people. I was like, bro, you just gotta try to do the things the right way. You know what I mean? Like, where we coming from in Cayman, everybody know. Most people know most people, and it's like just try and do the right thing with each other. That's all. I was like, at the end of the day, I remember my old primary school principal at one point, Miss Range, used to always tell us to look on the right, look on the left, and the person next to you could be an angel because you never know what somebody going through. You never know what somebody dealing with. So you got to try and at least be the best version of someone's day. And I always lived my life that way. And, being when I reverted to Islam, it helped me to keep that value in my head. So and that's why I said like the values of Christianity and Islam, very similar,
Mhm.
nothing far away from it. But like I said, for the listening public, if anybody ever had any questions, honestly, come on down and put Imam Noor to task. You know what I mean? I mean, he knows me as well. I always put him to task. I always have questions with him. I always talking with
Mhm.
him because
Mhm.
I'm very vocal. I like to go to the source, and get my information. So I want to extend that invite. I'm sure Imam Noor will do the same.
Mhm.
So I'll just
Okay.
pass it over on Miss Donna.
Yep. And for clarity, El Rey says Islam is the religion, while a Muslim is a person who follows that religion.
Yeah.
Thank you, El Rey, for
Yeah,
the
Ellery, thank you.
clarification. Donna, the question I think was in reference to, you were Christian at some point, I assume, or at least grew up in a Christian home, and now you are a Muslim. Please explain to us, in your opinion, what sort of differences do you feel like it's a big divergence in belief and practice?
Hi, Sandy. No, I agree with everything that's been said so far. I think there are fewer differences and a lot more similarities. So, as Imam and Marco said, all of the prophets from Adam, peace be upon them all, are the same. You know, when you start to learn about Islam, you read the Quran, you read about Noah, Prophet Noah, you read about Prophet Moses, all of them, peace be upon them. And so the teachings are very much similar. The fasting that we are supposed to be doing annually. You know, I grew up in a Christian household. Every Easter, my grandparents fasted for weeks. You know, so it didn't, when I learned about Ramadan, for example, it wasn't complete unfamiliar territory because, okay, I was like, okay, we do this too. We as Christians, we fast. As Marco mentioned, I think one of the biggest differences is people might not understand that we too believe in Isa, peace be upon him, which is Jesus. Some people think we don't believe in Jesus. We don't believe he's the Messiah. We don't believe that, you know, he'll be resurrected and come again, which we do. Some people think that we don't worship the same God, but we do. We worship the one and only Creator. As Imam said, there are different sects in Christianity. When I was growing up, we went to Church of God in Town, went to New Testament in West Bay, and we went to, at some point, Seventh-day Adventists, and I could clearly see, okay, there's some slight differences. And I would say those slight differences are what contribute to the slight differences in Islam. You know, so for example, some believe in, I can't say the word because the Quran explicitly says don't say it. But what I'll say is the Ten Commandments, for example, one of the first ones is, you know, there's only one God, and you're not supposed to associate anything to God. So, you know, some people have their own specific set within Christianity that might believe something else. So what I would say is, as a whole, there are a lot more similarities in terms of praying, fasting, believing in one God, believing in all of the prophets, believing in the scriptures, because the Quran wasn't the first scripture, right? The tablets that Moses got, 10 Commandments, you know, all the way down to the Psalms and the Gospel. So we believe in all of the scriptures and all of the prophets. Peace be upon them all.
Okay, we had a caller, but looks like they couldn't hang on. Don't forget, folks, if you're a Flow customer, you can hang on as long as you want because it's a toll-free number too. So let's answer a few questions. Cayman Kind says, does the Muslim believe in the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, and that Jesus died and rose on the third day? So the story of the resurrection, is that something that's in your book, in your Quran?
So we believe in the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost separately. So we don't call the Father Father, of course. It's God Almighty, and we have a name for him, Allah. He has a different name in different faiths, of course.
Okay.
And for Jesus, peace be upon him, we believe him as a prophet of God. He had miracles. He was very special to God. And the Holy Ghost is the angel Gabriel, peace be upon him. As for Jesus, peace be upon him, we don't believe that he was killed or he died in this world. We believe he was raised up, he rose up to the heavens, and that he will come back into the world. And when he comes back, then obviously, just like the Christians believe that establishing heaven and earth, etc., we believe in a similar thing. So again, a lot of similarities. That's why actually when we have conversations with a lot of Christians and we explain to them our belief in Jesus and Mary, that's like the first moment of understanding, and a lot of walls get broken down of misunderstanding between our faiths when they understand, no, Jesus and Mary have a standing in our faith, and the beliefs are similar. Obviously, they're not exactly the same, but they are very close by.
CJ Cooper Bodden says, as well as Christianity have several different branches, Islam has several different branches per se. So just explaining that there's different sects within the religion, I suppose. This person makes the following comment. Our Constitution guarantees freedom of thought and religion for all persons, including children. Traditionally, Islam has not allowed for children who are raised by Muslim parents to be anything but Muslim. How do they reconcile this stance with a child and the young person's rights to explore and decide for themselves?
No, I don't think that's correct. Where traditionally Islam has not allowed for children to be raised by Muslim parents to be anything but Muslim. Every person has their own choice. If as the child grows up, if the child wants to choose a different faith, that's on them. Obviously, a Muslim parent is not going to I wouldn't say support them. Is not going to recommend them to take this path. You're going to try to sit them down and talk to them. But then, in the end, every person can make their own decision. If the child wants to do that, the parents are going to still going to accept them in their home. They're still going to raise them as their child. They're still going to treat them normally, whether they've moved to a different faith. So that's no issue, especially living in the world that we live in now, when everything is available and a person can make their own research. I don't think that works anymore.
Let's take a phone call. Good morning,
Sorry.
caller.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
How are you?
Not bad. How are you?
Very interesting topic this morning.
Oh, thanks very much.
Good.
Yes, ma'am.
It's okay for me to talk now. I'll wait until you finish.
No. You have a question for a guest or a comment?
It's just not really a question. It's just how I would put it now. It's just my experiences
Okay.
and my beliefs. You know, because experience teaches wisdom. Yeah. A lot of persons look at Muslim and Christianity different, and a lot of people look at the Adventist different. All of them. But I'm just saying this to say that the names are just names periodically, because it's one God everybody's serving. I believe in that. And what I experience with Muslim, I have no objection with them, because I recognize the New Testament faith, the Adventist faith, as you said, a lot of similarity is there. But the principle of standing on the word is totally different among their attitude and how they demonstrate who God is and what God's supposed to be. So everybody have their flaws and their belief and their thinking, and everybody's striving to perfection. But I experience all of them, and I can attest that when I was growing up, I used to believe Muslim was the worst persons and the most wickedest person to how they portrayed it. But when I experienced Muslim, other religions, that's why I do not talk against religions, and I do not discuss it, because experiencing them is totally different. But I can say the morality, morals that the Christian aspect should have had, it's sitting right there in the Muslim faith.
Okay.
And I will say that without any apology, because I've experienced everybody. And his experience, I'm not talking about judging someone on my opinion. Yeah? And what person must understand, you have a lot of mothers, a lot of roof. Under your roof, you have principle to carry out. And it's the same way it goes for any denomination, any religion. So I don't see why, whatever said, I'm not going to judge or what have you, but everybody have their own discipline and principle. And if everything based upon the word of God, I don't see a problem with it.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And that's where I leave it.
All right. Appreciate that. 936-2626. Someone was saying that the conversation is more of that it is theological. Well, I don't control the questions that people have. So just to be clear, if people have those types of questions, then this is part of the educational process. And this is part of how you bring people together where, yes, you might believe slightly different things than members of the Christian community, but it doesn't mean that you have to be at each other's throats. We have a few questions here. So this person says, ask the Iman, what are Islam's views on Hindus, Jews, Buddhists, and atheists? And then they go on to say, wrong, a Muslim man can marry an outside woman, but a Muslim woman is traditionally expected to marry a Muslim man. Sandra, there are Muslims across the world who are condemned to death for converting outside of Islam, the sin of apostasy. So let's take these in order. How do you guys generally respond to other religions, whether someone is even an atheist where they don't believe in any of this stuff at all?
Sorry. Okay.
You can go ahead.
Sorry, Sandy. I just had, if you'll allow, I had something to say about the last question.
Yeah, sure.
Further to Imam's statement, the one about the Constitution allowing for freedom of choice of religion. I just like to say that every household, you have kids, right? And you want to bring them up the best that you can, to the best of your knowledge. And as we age over time, God's willing, we'll become wiser. And, what we try to instill in our kids might change. And that's totally fine. Everyone's on a journey. And so I think it's no different. It doesn't matter what your religion are. Generally, I think if we had some stats, if you're a Muslim, you would try to teach your kid Muslim principles. If you're a Christian, you would try to teach your kids Christian principles. If you're a Jew, and similarly a Jew. Now, when a child is young, they don't have the mental capacity to really fully understand everything. Even to this day, I have a lot of questions, a lot of doubts. But when you're that small, you don't really comprehend. So as the teachers, as the leaders, not just in the same religion, as a village, as a community, we try our best to explain. Now, I just want to say that, and this might link to these are the questions, and Imam will address. In the Quran, it explicitly states that there should be, where God is saying, there should be no compulsion in religion. We're not supposed to force someone. So if you have a child and you raise them on a set of principles, obviously as they get older, they can read, they can understand, they can rationale and analyze for themselves. And at that time, they may make a decision to change their religion. And I know as a parent, it might be hard to digest. You might not be happy with it, but ultimately God will guide us all, God's willing, right? And they will make that choice. So I don't think it's anything peculiar about Islam in that sense. I think it's just most people would generally do that. And we hope, God's willing, that if the child decides to change course, we will support them. We would try to encourage them and recommend and tell them, don't close that door, just keep it cracked, while you're exploring. But we will try to support them.
And it's so interesting that you say that, because El Rey seems to be quite a scholar when it comes to the faith.
I see the same quote.
He says that there's no compulsion in religion, and he quotes what the Quran says, that there shall be no compulsion in the acceptance of the religion. The right choice has become clear from the wrong. And he even quotes the exact, area of the Quran that more or less says that. He says this verse is widely interpreted by Muslim scholars to mean that no individual, including a child, once they have reached the age of discernment and adulthood, should be forced to accept a belief against their will. So thank you, A student, El Rey, quoting scripture.
And if I could just say one last thing as well, I think across the world, you have different religions and you have different cultures, right? So you might have, 10 countries, they might all be Christian, but the way they do things, their culture might differ. And you might question, okay, why is that happening? It's not necessarily anything particular with the religion. It has nothing to do with the religion. It's a cultural practice. So I'll leave Imam to proceed with answering the additional questions.
We have another interesting comment here where Omar says regarding the sin of apostasy, in the Bible, it states that the punishment is being stoned to death, according to Deuteronomy 13:6-11. So it is so interesting, what Omar says. And when you talk about this, people who are in the Christian faith don't often pick up on some of their own scriptures that would be considered very, very controversial, that talk about putting people to death, for example, who commit adultery and other things. So they see it, and someone makes a comment here. They say that the fear, aisle 2025 says, the fear with Islam is radicalism. Can they say what they would never, that would never be an issue here? I don't believe that, of course, but some people actually do. So this radicalism is something worldwide that we have seen tied to this religion. And I think some of it is cultural, like, some of the places that are predominantly Muslim countries have a reputation to being anti-American. And of course, once you're anti-American, that means that you're definitely a radical and all these other things. So I think part of it is a perception issue. And part of it is, for that part of the world, it's a reality, right? That they're polar opposites for not just religious reasons, for political reasons and other things as well. So that is a very, very interesting comment, aisle 2025. And we see that a lot of the objections to Islam have to do with people who believe that your beliefs are too radical. But I would challenge those same people to look at the Christian, go and read your Bible and look at some of the things that are said in the Christian, context as well. And you would see that the argument, and I'm sure people like Al Ebanks is listening to the program today, and their argument, Al doesn't buy any of this. He says, this is the very fundamental problem with religions across the board. It doesn't make a difference if you're Muslim, if you're Christian, whatever. Religions are too radical, and they cause people to then tap in to those radical elements and become, fanatical about it. But that's a very broad discussion. Marco?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry, it's just I just gotta leave you for the day. I gotta go back to work. But before I leave, I just wanted to leave it a comment if that's okay. So I just wanted to leave and say, what separates us from the rest of the creation of God, and I have this conversation with a lot of people, is we have one thing called intellect. We have a part of us that we can say yes or no. We have a choice. And yes, I will agree that religion is one thing, but culture is a different thing. So culture and religion is two different things, right? And when you have like Mr. Borden's comment earlier that he said you have different sects in Islam, that is true. It is true as well. And it just, like I said, it just adds to my leaving comments of, we all have a choice of how we choose to spend our day. We all have a choice of what we choose to do with that day. Whatever you choose to do with it, it's up to you. Like my mother used to tell me, she said, you make your bed, you gotta lay on it. So it's just to say that whatever we choose to do, I just, try to tell people, like, do your due diligence. What works for you works for you. But always try to be the best part of someone's day and not, knock anybody for certain things. And also, culture and religion is two different things. You know what I mean? You have people in different parts of the world that say they're Muslims, but they practice their beliefs culturally, not religiously. Same as in here, right here in Cayman, you got people that practice their beliefs culture and not religiously. And it's just a place where people just have to really step back sometimes and say, well, this works for me, this doesn't work for me. And I mean, I really wish I had more time to stay on and take on more comments and stuff, but I just want to also leave and say, to anyone listening that would have answers and have these type of conversations, because these conversations can last long, because it's a very interesting topic. Honestly, feel free to come down to the Islamic Center at Cayman Business Place. Speak with Imam Noor, any one of the committee members. Myself and Ms. Donna, we're not committee members, so there's no guarantee that we'll probably be there. But Imam Noor will always be there, and I just say, if you have any questions, just come on down. But just before I leave, I just want to say, I'm wishing yourself and everyone else here on the panel a good day, blessed morning, and to the wider listening community, good morning. Hope you have a great day as well, and I'm wishing you blessings and safety for the day.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Marco. Have a good day.
Ms. Sandy?
Yes.
First of all, I'd like to express my appreciation for the way you're handling things, because I can see some of the very strong comments coming in. Maybe I'd like to just steer the topic maybe a little away from theology. We may be able to come back to it.
Yes. Well, I think I don't know what you're going to say next, but I think probably the important thing to do in a sort of context like this is to just answer people's questions directly. So if people are having questions around theology and how this works, then just answer the questions as a matter of fact, right? There is a much broader, I think, educational process that has to happen here about the Muslim community. And that is where, again, I go back to the point I made at the beginning of the program, is it would be great for your, community to open yourselves up to not just telling people to come to your meetings, because I mean, everybody does that, I suppose. All the churches say, come to our meetings, but maybe having a show where you educate people about what it is that you stand for, what does the Quran say, et cetera, et cetera. So let me just put that in the back of your mind. But people do want their questions answered.
No, we're not shirking or hiding from any questions. Maybe we can just answer them together towards the end.
Yeah,
just
sure.
So we don't miss anything out. Maybe we'll just answer these three quickly that are in front of us. So with regards to Islam's view on any religion, like I mentioned, we have a kind of a closer connection with Christianity, actually. With regards to any other religion, the Quran very clearly says in one of the shorter chapters that for you is your religion and for us is ours. So we live together, we can coexist, we can live as neighbors, we can live as roommates, we can go to the same school, wherever. When it comes to religion, obviously, at the time of prayer, I'm going to go to my mosque and you're going to go to your church, and we're both going to accept that. And we're gonna have or a synagogue or wherever else, and we're going to accept that, and we should have no issue on that. So that's what it is in terms of Islam. Is not going to comment on each religion. We just say yours is your religion and ours is ours, and we just have to live peacefully. That's the first thing with regards to that. And then in terms of a Muslim man can marry an outside woman, but a Muslim woman is traditionally expected to marry a Muslim man. That is generally true, yes. A Muslim man can marry a Christian or Jewish woman, and a Muslim woman is generally, she's expected to marry a Muslim man. There is certain reasons for that. I guess it's because maybe there's a hope that if obviously Islam will see itself as trying to preserve the religion within the children. And if the father is a Muslim, then hopefully the children will also be Muslim. That's the case. Again, there's always exceptions to that and reverts, etc. There are Muslims across the world who are condemned to death for converting outside Islam. This more or less doesn't happen. First of all, this definitely won't happen if it's a majority non-Muslim country. We're living in the West, a secular land. No Muslim is going to go if some other Muslim leaves the faith. No Muslim is going to go and kill them. First of all. Secondly, even as a rule, like we mentioned, we could always mention the quote from the Bible. We don't want to mention that. We just want to address the issue. Even as a rule itself, in a Muslim majority country or a Muslim rule, not just a Muslim majority, if there's actual Islamic rule, then even then there's a lot of this time given to the person. If they leave the faith, they're given time. They're told, okay, leave the country. There's certain. It's not that you just go and you chop the head off and they're taken to court, and it's a whole court process. So it's not a sense of vigilante, or it's not a sense of somebody's left Islam and you go and you just take the head off. So again, there's a process, and there's due diligence taking place, and there's time given, and all of these kind of things. So that issue is not there anymore. I would just like to say that. Do you want me to keep answering questions, or can I just make a?
Yeah, you can make your comments in between. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I think I just want to address one thing, and that, or not even address, just kind of speak about the fact that we need to start. I guess even a lot of people in the comments may never have met a Muslim or spoken to a Muslim, interacted with a Muslim, or knowingly or unknowingly. So what we'd like to say is that, we have to understand that Muslims, just like any other people of faith, they are humans like all of us. We are humans, of course. We'll dress the same. Obviously, right now I'm dressed in my religious clothing, but when I go out, we're dressing the same. We're engaging in the same sports. We have the same interests. You'll be with your Muslims in pickleball, and you could be with your Muslims going as friends to restaurants, and you could go on a boating trip and whatever. So we may not know it, and we will have Muslims around us, and that's no issue, because we have to see that they are humans just like us. Your neighbors could be Muslim, and you did probably be really good neighbors, because Islam teaches about neighbors' rights, etc. And I want to say that, as a community, we're a very small community. I think even on the census in 2021, the census, they said there's 258 Muslims. So it's a point something 1%, I think, of the population. So it's a very small pocket of them. There's Caymanians and non-Caymanians and some families, etc. And as a community, we've always looked towards, because the Quran and the Prophet, peace be upon him, they teach about service to humanity. So not just service to Muslims, service to humanity. So we've taken part individually or as a community in different volunteer services. So as a community, we've had we've given towards Meals on Wheels. We've had Pines visits, you know, the home for elders, etc. Pines visits. We've gone there. We've spoken to the elders. We've spent time with them. We've given them donations, etc. We've also been to ARC, so Acts of Random Kindness. In fact, one of the Muslim sisters, she designed the logo for ARC, Acts of Random Kindness. We've also taken part in that. We are so that's as a community level. We've donated to different projects on island and these kind of things. And then on an individual level, we have some Muslims who are volunteer policemen, Muslims who are part of the Cayman Regiment, Muslims who are taking part in this GA, which is like junior apprenticeship, etc. So or where they are coaching young Caymanian students and these kind of things. We also have one of our Muslim students, he's actually a member and a leader of YAC, Youth Actions Cayman, and we've taken part in beach cleanups and all these kind of things. So that's not for just PR or for just clout, because a lot of the things you probably never heard of, we don't even post them. It's just because we see it as a service, as a responsibility to the people around us. So these kind of services have happened and will happen. A lot of our Muslims are chefs. I know you were saying at the beginning that maybe some people are saying Health City is full of Muslims, but we know obviously it might be Indians or different Hindus, etc., Buddhists, Sikh, wherever. Some Muslims would be there, but we have a lot of Muslims who are chefs. So now next month, one of our community members, who's a head chef in one of the restaurants, he's actually going to run a buffet, which is of it's the theme of it is a local Cayman themed buffet, and he was telling me about it, and he was like, you know, maybe the governor will be coming and we should go and stuff. So you know, they're just trying to make a living. We're trying to live with the community. So it's not an issue of us versus them. It's not an issue of, I know that I see some comments that are saying, do the Muslims, is their aim to grow? Is their aim to convert people, etc.? Like even the two people who have come on, they converted or they became Muslim in UK because of different experiences. So we are not sitting in stalls, you know, saying we're going to become Muslim. We're not giving out pamphlets. I saw a comment that was saying, you know, some pamphlet came on my door. So we've never actually done door-to-door pamphleting. We've never done any of this. So I don't know if that's something else. So we're not here to convert. We're not here on a missionary project. I'm here to take care of the community that we have and to do services for the greater community. Like I said, even just a couple of, maybe last year, I think. So one of the sisters I'm involved with, she's like in the real estate. So she reached out saying her church has some kind of dinner, etc., and they wanted donations. I said, no, just come over, and we gave a donation. So even we're happy to help out. We're happy to have interfaith dialogue. We've opened up to different churches in the past as well to have interfaith dialogue. You read the Bible, I read the Quran. We try to speak over it. We'll look at different verses, etc. And I know once I was called to a prayer for peace. So I think there was something happening. Maybe there was earthquakes in Turkey and Morocco and these things. So one of the churches called over and we went for a prayer for peace. So I was there. There was a leader of that church. There was a leader of a different faith as well, and we had a prayer for peace. And even when the issues were happening in the Middle East, then we had a vigil on the beach. And even in there, again, a Christian leader spoke. I spoke, and a couple of other people spoke, and so in these things we are really happy to interact and to get involved. So I think what we need to focus on is again our similarities and how we are just trying to get on as humans. And religion is something which is generally a personal thing. It's not something that we push out there and we go out as Muslim first.
All right, we've got a caller. Yes, thank you so much. We've got a call on the line. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program. Question or comment?
Yeah. Hey, morning, Sandy, and morning to your guests.
Morning.
It's very good that we have this open discussion. I missed a bit of the program this morning, but I did catch about a half an hour ago. I missed a half hour prior to this, and I logged back on and I heard the continued conversation. I just wanted to thank your guests for coming through. A couple of quick points. I'll try to make this as quick as possible, but one of the things that majority of the faith community, that's every faith, lack to understand, this discussion is the most pertinent, vital, important discussion to life existence. It shapes our worldview, our political view, our family view, our educational view. It shapes everything that we believe and how we go through life. And so I want to just open with a question. I've heard it repeated a couple of times, and I was able to listen this earlier. And then I logged back on and I heard it repeated again. So I thought it's pertinent that we make some things clear, that we're not misled in what we think is true. It was said repeatedly that we serve all the same one God, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Does that include, if I may ask, yes,
I mean,
Sandy.
that's not exactly what they said. I think they said that there's a difference in how they treat. So they do believe in the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, but they sort of, I guess, categorize them a little bit differently.
Right. For the Christian worldview, that's called the Godhead. The Catholic Church calls it the Trinity, and even within Christianity, there's
differences. Yes, I mean, listen,
right.
There's a lot of I've mentioned this before. Within the Christian faith, there are, I forget how many sects of Christianity that it's like in the thousands, and it's actually ridiculous when you think about it. And sometimes what separates them is belief, and like you said, maybe they don't believe in the Trinity; they believe in that slightly different. So,
well, when I share with you and your guests and your listeners, Sandy, I think you'll have a great appreciation. I pray you do. Why I'm asking this question, why I'm bringing this up. You know, if you look at the scriptures, and I heard your guest say that the Quran speaks much of Jesus. So if you just look at the book of Romans chapter 6:16, I'm reading and quoting from the KJV. Romans 6:16 says, "Know ye not that to whom you yield yourselves servants to obey, his servants ye are to whom you obey, whether for sin unto death or of obedience unto righteousness." So what we're opening up here is a very clear distinction that there's right and there's wrong. Mm-hmm. Right and wrong is not the same. Just to open this up. So in whom you obey is either right or wrong. They're not the same. So Allah is taken as a sacred, holy representation of the Muslim society. And I'm not going to speak of any or intent for anything disrespectful or dishonorable, but I'm just going to share it for the discussion. So to whom you obey is either right or wrong, but they're not both the same. That's very clear. An example of this, as a matter of fact, in the book of Genesis chapter 3, everything was perfect when Jesus, the only begotten of God, was obeyed and worshipped. So to obey Jesus is worship. To obey anything else is worship. And we don't end up the same place. For the same reason, Adam and Eve was kicked out of the Garden of Eden because of disobedience, not murdering or stealing, just disobedience. So when I tell you that religion shapes a worldview, it's like threatening a son. There's 10 sons, and the one king says, "I'll give you to the first son everything that I own if you obey what I say, but do not listen to your brothers." He goes to the second son. He says the same thing to the second son: "Do everything that I say, but do not obey your brothers and get my kingdom." And he goes through that same series for 10 different sons. What would be the existence of that kingdom? It won't do very well. So if the 10 senses were all obeying the Father, then we have a problem. So I ask, my question to this, to your guest is, if you view that we're all going to the same heaven, how can we reconcile the variances? In Christianity, the Bible shows us that no other name can cast out demons but the name of Jesus Christ. What names does the Muslims call to cast out demons?
Okay, leave me there.
I got one closing point,
okay.
If I may.
Yep.
If I may. But it's a question. I just want to follow up on the question with my closing comments. What name does the Muslims call to cast out demons?
I can't understand properly. What name do Muslims call?
What name do you call on to cast out demons? Do you guys even do that? I mean, I don't know whether you do or not, but
we call upon Allah. So it's going to be
okay.
Yeah. And as a result of that, the success of calling the name of Allah, demons obey.
We hope so. That's why we do it, right?
You see the very answer. No, Sandy, this is very serious. This is very, very serious. You see the very answer. We hope so. I can tell you with authority, demons, I can tell you with authority, obey the name of Jesus Christ and they flee. That's with authority. So it's important when you say separate my children from other Christian children. I long to integrate my family with other religions for the same way, because I'm looking for the inheritance of eternal life. I'm looking for inheritance. That's my inheritance through Jesus Christ. So to separate ourselves and it doesn't matter who you worship, is to lose or to gain your inheritance. I'll leave you there, Sandy. Thank you very much.
All right. Right. This person says, morning, Sandra. Putting aside Caymanians who choose to convert to Islam on their own, how do we explain the pattern of many Muslims leaving Muslim majority countries for predominantly Christian countries while still preferring to maintain very distinct religious and cultural communities rather than integrating more fully into the wider society?
This is a nice question. I know, so obviously, after post-colonial war or the post-colonial world has seen a lot of migration, and particularly people from maybe Muslim majority lands coming over into the West, and majority Christian countries, of course. And yes, at the beginning they probably had to create their own little communities to maybe be able to support each other, etc. At the start, there was a lot of racism, especially in UK. I can speak from not experience, but maybe my parents or the people I know, elders, their experience. So they had to create closer knit communities just to kind of protect one another. The next generation was supposed to almost much more integrate and be within society. And if that hasn't happened, that's obviously upon them. They are probably doing it to kind of maintain or protect some kind of culture, some kind of religion, but that can be maintained and it can be protected with integration. So I do believe that it is some kind of, I wouldn't say deficiency, but it's a bit of a shortcoming on a lot of the Muslims. I'm not going to say all of the Muslims or majority, but some of the Muslims who have moved into the West, that they haven't integrated. But I think a lot of Muslims do integrate, and they do take part in society, in the wider societies. They'll be in all different works of life. They'll be in all different positions. And I think when you come again to locally, we want to ground it in Cayman, that a Muslim in Cayman, you don't see them walking around in their particular dresses. You don't see them particularly, close knit in their own little circles. Like Miss Donna will tell you that her family is obviously Christian. Her friends will be of different backgrounds, and I'm sure they spend time together and they go out together and they socialize with different circles. And most of the people, even in the community, when I speak to them, of course they are socializing and they are networking and they are spending time with all different parts of different circles of society. So I think when we come to Cayman especially, then I don't think that issue will ever be here. The case of segregation or separation within society.
All right, we do have a caller on the line. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Sandra. Good morning, Imam. Good morning, Ms. Donna.
Morning.
Yes, I just wanted to make a quick comment about the video that was sent. I mean, I myself am not a religious person, but I certainly don't I certainly don't condemn people for their own religious beliefs. I don't want to lose the forest for the trees, Sandra, because I think the wider message is no one person in Cayman gets to say who is welcome here from who's not welcome here. I mean, somebody might not be welcome at your house. I mean, you have every right to say that, but you can't tell me that I can't welcome somebody at my house.
Right.
So, but I think also I would invite, respectfully, sir, Imam, just to be mindful that when certain things are said, especially when they're recorded, I understand completely your concern about wanting to raise children up in with your own values and instilling in them, Muslim values. But just also consider the tone and tenor of sometimes what is being said, because historically here in Cayman, there has been a lot of discrimination from outside influences, expats who come in and they sort of look down their noses at us. And, back in my country this and back in my country that, and there has been a history of discrimination. So I think that the comment, while taken out of context of a wider 1 hour clip, just be mindful, sir, that, this is a sensitive area for a lot of Caymanians here.
I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. And even I would say I kind of regret the wording, especially. And as some of my own community advised me, I think I need to be much more wary, take a bit of coaching in public speaking. Sometimes we also forget that, how far the word can go and stuff. But even then, in our private gatherings and our public gatherings shouldn't be any different, of course. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
All right. Take care, sir.
I think her voice is off. Audio is
my apologies. I had grabbed a call and had muted myself. But no, I was going to say that's a very valid point from that caller, because there really is a broader context here, setting aside all of the religious differences. This is really about Caymanians having this sense of, we've talked about it in lots of different scenarios, Caymanians having this sense of being a minority in their own country and being encroached upon by everyone else. So whether it's like religion, culture, people from the UK, the women's group on social media, and it's like everybody comes here, everybody has an opinion, everybody want us to conform to their way of life, their opinion, their whatever. And so the Caymanians feel that noose on their neck tightening more and more. And so there is a natural resistance to that, because, we shouldn't have to feel that way in our own country. So something certainly to be said for that. So we do have a few more comments, and thank you to that caller. Someone is asking, would you be open to just releasing the entire video so that they could see exactly the full context of it?
I mean, the video was online for, I think, a month, probably more than a month.
Okay.
We would probably release it again. I guess we just
Okay.
paused it, just because if things are being clipped out of context sometimes, and that's more than a 1 hour video, even somebody was searching for something. So obviously, then you just have to be a bit
So
more
it was actually
aware.
online for anybody to see.
No, that's what I mean, right? It's a public video.
Mhm.
And our YouTube channels are there, our socials are there. People can see what we do and what we talk about. That's no problem.
Okay. All right. We have a question or comment. Miss Lucille, is that you? Hello?
Hello, this is, hi.
Oh, I'm sorry. I saw UK number. Just assumed it was Miss Lucy.
Oh, no.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good.
Great. Pleasant to hear from you guys. Fantastic program. I'm calling all the way from the United Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I must say, we have to, as much has been said in regards to religion. If I'm coming to religion from a Judeo-Christian point of view, because Christianity is not a religion, it's a belief.
Mm-hmm.
And the belief is that God, an eternal God, by an open invitation, comes to dwell and live in man. And from there, our faith is based on Christ, which is through the Bible, which we live by the Spirit of God,
Mm-hmm.
which carries us into understand our faith in Christ. So our faith in Christ is God. Now, the dilemma we have is this thing called Islam. I've been in pastoral ministry for 47 years. I've been a part of the Speakers Corner group in London for 30 years. I've traveled more than 17 different countries, mostly Islamic countries, and see the major delinquency, the problems with this Islamic faith. What you have is the Sahaba, you have the Salafi, you have the Shia, so there's so many different sets.
Mm-hmm.
My question is this. Now, Islam is a political movement that is umbrellaed under religion, because Islam political alliance is totally takeover. You cannot be in the domain without their religion be superior over what you are, because Islam doesn't teach you to integrate into existing community without trying to establish your religion as a superior over that community or over that religion, over that city. Now, what I realize is this: the complete Quran itself, compiled, does not teach Islam to coexist with any religion. Wherever it goes, it doesn't teach you to coexist. If it's not going to be a dominant religion and you have to be submissive, then it cannot survive. Now, if you look across the Jordan, I've been to Iraq, I've been to Baghdad, I've been to, you can name it. This religion, Iraq was Christian. Iran, Christian. The whole of Medina was a Jewish town. Everywhere where Islam exists as a political movement, as a religion, it creates havoc and problem. The Shia against the Sunni, the Turks against the Kurdish, everybody. The problem we find is this: how do we invite a religion when the culture of that religion does not allow you to coexist with it unless it's superior over what you are? It does not exist, because you'll never find a Salafi Muslim from Saudi Arabia invites himself into want to go to anybody's country to be partakers, to take over or be dominant in anybody's country, because it's not. Because the Arabs first is culture, then religion. Their religion is secondary to their culture. And that's why you find what is happening with the mass migration of Islam is converts. Now, my problem is this. If you're a convert to what pre-existed before, what make you a convert? Because a lot of people conversion is not according to what the Islamic Authority in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia agrees with. Because in Saudi, there's no dawah team. There's no calling for anybody to come to be
I think
Muslim.
we might be going a little down quite a rabbit hole here, but leave me there with those comments, because what I would say to you, caller, and others who are listening, is I could make probably very equal arguments about the Christian faith being political in nature. And I can go and historically show you how Christianity and the Protestants were at war with each other.
Stop it. That's where you go wrong, because this is what you follow. Your Christianity, it's through the papacy of Rome. God didn't call us to be Christianity. God's church are called believers, and the believers are Christian. Christian and Christianity is two different things. Christians abide by the Bible itself, which is led of the Spirit of God, not by the teachings of men. So if you have a problem with Christianity, you can talk to the papacy of Rome. But God's people, God's people live by the testimony of Jesus, which is the spirit of prophecy, which is Bible. We don't go out of the 66 books to argue anything else. We believe that the Bible is God-breathed. Jesus is the Son of God. He is God. And the Bible, everything of the Bible is true. That's what we believe.
Okay.
Anything about that, we don't challenge. So when you speak about Christianity, you have to understand Christianity is a political name. It is an umbrella name given to different bodies. But we believe the Bible. The Bible is not what we believe. It is who we believe. That's what we follow. We follow Jesus. We don't follow Christianity, because the Christianity that exists today, that's what Islam is against. And that's what fights, that where the battle fights. We're not those kind of people. That's why the persecution and the genociding of Christianity out of people's countries to replace it with a religion.
You'll have to leave me there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right. Yes. And this is, turn your radio down when you call in, folks. This is the issue with religion. Everybody believes that they're right, and everybody has an opinion. Going back to what I was saying is, this is not a matter for me of debate. This is history. There have been wars. You guys talk about the Islam faith as though it is a faith of, wars and whatever. Maybe. I'm not going to argue that one way or the other, but I'm also telling you, as RR says, religion breeds hate and ignorance. That is a general comment that tends to be very, very true. And it's across all religious sects, including Christianity. There have been kingdoms that have fell and risen for battles fought on behalf of Christ, on behalf of the Lord, on behalf of Christianity, whatever little nuances you want to throw in there. I'm telling you, people have been executed and killed just because they were Christian or just because they were Protestant or whatever. This is humanity, and it has been a long-standing issue. We do have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Hello.
Hi, good morning.
I just want to ask one question. That man said him do everything off of the Bible. Who write the Bible?
You're asking a Muslim person who wrote the Bible?
Yeah. Send
Okay.
everything after the Bible.
All right. Well, I guess you're testing his Christian knowledge. Iman, who wrote the Bible? I mean, what do you guys believe in terms of who wrote the Bible?
The Bible is a collection of many different books. So I think they all have different authors. You can't just say one person wrote the entire Bible.
Right. Okay. All right, caller. That answers your question, maybe?
I don't know.
Hello, caller?
Hello, caller? Hello, caller?
Okay. Not sure what happened there. Make sure when you call, you're paying attention on the line. Yeah. Okay, then. I'm listening to you when you talk about the hostility in religion, and this is, you do yourselves no favors when you come in, and this is probably what separates me. I obviously grew up in a Christian home. I went to church just like 99% of Caymanians. And for me, my own path, in university, I was exposed to people from all types of religious faiths. I dated someone from Sri Lanka. Both of his parents, one was Christian, one was of another religious beliefs. I learned religious tolerance very, very early on. And maybe that's why I'm not as emotive about any of this. And my position is this: you believe what you believe 99.9999999% of the time, because that's simply how you were raised. And that's it. You know, most people don't even dig deep into why they believe the things that they believe at all. And so I'm open to listening to people. I was just watching with my husband the other day this video by this astrophysicist guy. His name isn't coming to me right now, but he's very, very well known in the industry. Oh Lord,
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah, hello, thank you. And he did a very interesting, I'm going to send that to you, caller, because I think you would find it interesting. He did a very interesting analysis around the question of basically whether there is a God and who created this universe. And so he answered the question in such an interesting way, and he probed you to think about certain things. And I'm going to send it to you because I think everybody should watch that and think in context of those elements, why you believe the things that you believe. Caller, question or comment?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to call in again. I just heard the previous caller, what he was saying. No disrespect to the caller, but I think what we just heard is indicative, and I think it speaks to this wider topic of integration and all of us sort of living together and things. We're all born with the, how do we say, we're all born with the propensity to have a prejudice of some kind, right? And the society in which we grow up with, the time and place in which we grow up, determines what that prejudice looks like.
Right.
And you can name any country, any religion, and there's going to be a prejudice against somebody else, right? I think the wider lesson for me is when you surround yourselves with people who think like you surround yourself only with people who think like you, you begin to form this delusion that is reality. And you know, it's sort of everything outside of that is false, right? And then when someone who doesn't fit into that reality comes and bursts that really, really fragile bubble, and you know, your whole world falls apart and you get defensive, and that really depends on how much of your life and how much of your livelihood that you built on those beliefs, right? I think the wider lesson to people is have your beliefs to still be open. Nobody has the whole truth. Nobody knows everything. And always be willing to, while holding on to your beliefs, listen to what other people have to say. Invite people out. Get to know people for yourselves, right? I'm sure the Imam, he doesn't speak for all Muslims. And I'm sure he's not responsible for all the ills that are going on in the Muslim world. So I just want to, for everybody who's listening, whatever faith you are, whatever community you're part of, don't close yourselves off from other people. Surround yourselves with people who think differently from you and learn from each other.
Yep. Thank you so much, caller. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
We have another caller on the line.
Sorry, when we speak with calmer voices and when we're open for discussion and to listen to people, that's when we can make some progress.
Yes. I think that caller dropped. All right. 936-2626 is the telephone number. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Hello, good morning. I am
morning.
So excited about this conversation because, funny enough, I'm a Caymanian and I do not practice a Judeo-Christian religion. And so listening to this is very much like, listening to the back and forth is very much like sitting on the outside of a family dinner watching the family fight, right? First of all, I am so, first of all, I'm really, really respectful of your guests. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being in this conversation, because I believe it is so important for us to understand diversity, the diversity of the human experience. You know, all of us have a right to come to the decision of our own conscience. We are all raised in different ways. And one of the concerns I have had about Cayman has been the closed-minded approach that we have taken to, first of all, our own religious practices, our own belief systems, and also the religions of other people, right? So I have this one thing to contribute to the conversation, which is, like I said, very much from outside. I am first of all commending your guests for their courage. This is not a very welcoming country when it comes to alternative views of the world. I think that we come by it honestly. We have been very, very small for a very long time. Our diversity is a very new thing. And so this is just one of the things that we're having to get used to, not just folks from all over the world, but for folks from all over the world with different beliefs. So this is just another part of our growing pains of getting to understand our place in the world. But I also want to just challenge everyone who is listening. Whenever we consider ourselves to be right, we automatically set up everyone around us who has any deviation from our belief to be wrong. And that is what has been the cause of wars. And I'm so grateful for you to pointing out that Christianity has actually been just as responsible, if not more responsible, for death in the history of humanity as Islam, probably more so. When you consider the wiping out of indigenous peoples in this part of the world alone, Christianity has been responsible for more death than any other religion in the world. You know, so I say all this to say that rather than get caught up in the crossfire, if we were able to own our religions and our belief system, not as right, but as right for us, it would set us up for coexistence in a way that would eliminate a lot of today's problems. I look at what's happening in North America right now, and I'm stunned by it. I was raised Christian. I was raised in a Christian home that was proud of its missionary heritage. So understand that when I come from this, like it's not like I haven't examined it. I have tread every religion of the world to choose what it is that I actually believe in reality. And if I could share one piece from my searches, from my hundreds of books that I've devoured in the last 20 years, it would be this. As long as we consider ourselves to be right, and we divide humanity between our rightness and the other's wrongness, as long as we are othering people for their religion and their belief systems, we put ourselves in a place where we are in danger of dehumanizing other human beings. And the dehumanization of other human beings is what causes the death that we are seeing all over the world today. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much. And that conclusion, somebody said to please give her a true caller, kaboom her. It is that level of intolerance, I think, of other people for religious reasons and sometimes many other reasons, not just religion, that is really part of what is indeed tearing humanity apart. Good morning, caller.
Morning. Quickly, I'm just called you before. I'm just leaving out to get off to work, but I just want to leave my final comment. I listened to you, the panel, very well, and listen to all the callers in. Now, I just wanted everybody to bear one thing in mind. And we are straying away into religion, not realizing God is not a God of religion. He's a God of righteousness. He's a God of love. He's a God of peace. Now, when you adhere to scriptures, scripture teaches you who Christ is and how you should conduct yourself according to the Bible. That's according to the Bible. Now, regardless of who we are, we must understand that, as the caller said before, every individual have the right, based on culture, based on belief, to have their own mind made up to make what choice they want to make. So nobody can impose their values on anybody's way of life. Now, what you will look at across the world and look at the global phenomena of what religion has been doing and look at how people intake religion, it calls for questioning. Now, why I say that this is it. Now, the caller said already before, Christianity is responsible. That's why I asked already before, what is Christianity and who are Christians? And how does the Bible teaches us to conduct ourselves under God? That's the most important stuff, because this should be more inclusive of religious believers and heads of religion to get involved with these kind of discussion to get to the bottom of all what is going on. It's just not for anybody just to open. No, it is something a more divine teaching understanding of where we are as a people in Christendom. Number one, that's number one. Number two, this is it. In regards to my Muslim brothers out there, we love them because the Bible teaches us we have to love one to another. But the one thing we will not tolerate is that people try to make whatever our beliefs are inferior, that we deserve death or we deserve to be executed off the earth. We don't tolerate that because religion has to be tolerant because it's with culture and it goes among society. If this religion, Islam, is what it says that it is of God, which as far as we're concerned, you just say you're Abrahamic faith. Why is it there's such a movement to lock down churches, eradicate people, to sanction people, to everything, to believe this? This is not the teachings of God. This is the teachings of men. This is the teachings of men. So if we have 50 different sets of Islam, why is it not all the leaders sit down to come to one conclusion, more than we have all different wars and fights and problems above all the Islamic community? Because remember, to the Cayman Island citizens, this is not a dominant religion before. It is a new concept of belief into the island. We are asking for open transparency. Why is it that the laws that you consecrate or constitute for yourself does not work in the very countries you're coming from, and you want those laws to coexist in the Cayman Island? And how does Cayman Island citizens will going to be submissive to this religion if it doesn't teach equality? It teaches separately from our cultural beliefs. That's what we need to come down to. So we need to be honest to ourselves and have an open understanding of what are we engaging into, what is the purpose of the engagement, and what does this religion wants us to comply with in order for us to exist or coexist in a society. So what I leave with you is a good word of illustration. I'll say to you, let every man seek God of himself and make that judgment based on biblical narrative, because Christianity is a belief in God. It's not a religion. So if we're going to follow God, we're not following religion, we're following. And God said, if you seek of me, you shall find me. If you knock, the door shall be open. Christianity is an invitation for a holy God to live in man so you can understand the ways of God. Nobody that ever follow religion.
All right. I appreciate it. Just as an aside, for those of you who want to to preach your sermons,
it's not a preaching, my sister. We're just laying down the law that you understand. Sorry, I'm not continuing. I'm just laying down because I listen to you on the panel. You're speaking more of what you want or whatever, but I'm just saying we are telling you from biblical point of view. So when you approach the panel and approach the discussion, remember that the Bible teaches one way. Man teaches another. So it's either God's way or man's way. I'll leave it up to you.
All right. What I can only say is, it's so funny when people have conversations and what they see in other people as aggressive behavior and all this sort of stuff, they don't see it in themselves when they are exhibiting it. Some of the most ignorant people I have met on the topic of religion have been Christians. And I'm speaking as someone who has grown up in the Christian faith, who has believed in the Christian faith. I've not converted to anything else. I can tell you without fear of contradiction, some of the most ignorant and stupid people I have ever met are Christians when they are having their discussions about their Christian faith. They are unbendable, but in the most horrific kind of way. And that the irony of that is that is the very thing that they then accuse Muslims and others of. I mean,
can I just address? Sorry,
of irony.
Can I just address two points that he mentioned in the call? One, he was saying that Christians or people of different faith are not allowed to practice their religion within a Muslim country or a Muslim environment. So that will be totally false for a number of reasons. And the first is that we can look at reality. Some of the oldest churches in the world are found in the Middle East. So that could be in Jordan, that is in Egypt. We still have these Coptic churches that are older than Islam itself. So they're older than Islam, they've come from Christian time, and they're still there. They're still preserved. In fact, the government helps in preserving them in certain parts of Palestine, in Jordan. So that's in terms of, and obviously these churches are well attended, well looked after. And then in terms of a Christian in a Muslim land practicing their own faith, again, they are given freedom. They are sometimes given extra protection. We actually have, I think somebody's brought up Christian in Pakistan or something. So on island, we have Christians from Pakistan. So Pakistan is obviously a very majority Muslim country, is run with a supposed Muslim rule, and it's known, it's got a reputation across the world as well for certain things. But even in Cayman, we have Christian from Pakistan living here. They're living with different faiths. I think somebody from our society is a roommate of theirs, and they work together, and there's no issues, and told to eat together. And so again, so I don't think so that's the first point I wanted to mention, in the sense that a Christian or somebody can definitely practice their faith in a Muslim country. And the second thing he was saying is about Muslims coming to the West and then wanting their laws being enacted, but that's never the case. A Muslim knows, and I think somebody pointed out in the comments that as a Muslim, we know that a rule when we come to any land, any Western land or any land that's not Muslim, is that we obey the law of the land. That's obviously something that's legally, it makes sense, and it's part of our understanding, because when you sign a work permit or immigration, you're signing with the understanding that I'm going to listen to the laws of the land here, even if it contradicts my religion in some way. So we have certain laws in Islam which we know they can never happen here. They can't, and we're not going to push for them, and we just stay quiet and we don't even look to enact them or something. So I think that's something that should never be feared. I think somebody brought up the question of even having multiple spouses. Now we know multiple spouses is not allowed in Cayman or in UK or in certain countries. So as a Muslim, I've actually advise the community that we'll never even go towards this on this island, because we know it's part of the constitution, it's not allowed. So that's just one example, and there's many other examples.
One of the things that strikes me as interesting as we start to wrap up the discussion now is that we have to acknowledge that this is a war of sorts, in the sense that it is a war of people of all churches trying to recruit as many members as they can for their particular sect and religious beliefs. So I had some graphs up here that demonstrate the number of people who are in each sort of religious group, right? And the funny thing about this is that Christians and Muslims, the Islamic faith, are neck and neck just about with how many people follow those religions worldwide, right? And so part of me thinks that on both sides, this becomes an issue of who can become the dominant religion, and people get into their egos, they get into the like, okay, I'm a Christian, so I want everybody else to be a Christian just like me kind of concept. As I recall, one of the things that, and I don't know if this is in your biblical teachings, but certainly in the Quran, I should say, certainly in the Bible, there is an understanding of tolerance, right? Jesus and God never said, I don't know, I'm getting some feedback from somewhere, so I don't know if someone has a window or something open, but Jesus never said that you have to come to me, you have to believe. No, you have to go willingly. Whatever your belief system is, it should be something that you come to willingly. And so I find it interesting, again, when people argue the point where, it's almost like you feel like you don't have a choice in what you believe and how you choose to live your life. I mean, it really is quite astonishing. Wow. And Christianity and Islam are both considered some of the newer religions. There are religions that precede both of those by thousands upon thousands of years. So while you guys sit here arguing amongst yourselves, I wonder what people who are, for example, Buddhists have to say about this, because they're like, oh, the new little boys on the block are arguing, and we have Hindus have been around from 2000 BCE. Christianity and Islam, these are newer religions. So your religion did not even exist. Think about that. Your books, your texts, all this stuff did not even exist from the dawn of time. And do you guys understand in the timeline how long human beings have been walking this earth? A lot of you talk about, well, we've only been here a couple thousand years. I'm like, really? Do you guys not learn history? It's just shocking. Good morning, caller. Hello, caller. Hello. Oh, my apologies. I had you on mute. I'm so sorry. Good morning, caller.
No problem. I am so glad you made that point, because actually that's what I was calling back to say. But I had a mild correction, small correction. Not every religion is fighting for followers. It is actually one of if you actually study the history of religion, and I'm a follower of the works of Joseph Campbell. He wrote about the history of belief. He was an academic. He was not a supporter of any single religion. There's also been quite a lot of work on the history of religion and how it progressed in academic work throughout the world, right? So I say all this to say, it is a nature of a monotheistic religion to monotheism is what brought this expansionist approach to religion to the fore. It is something that started with Judaism. I think Judaism was one of the first of those religions, but actually there was one before that, the worship of Mithra, which was Zoroastrianism, which predates Judaism and actually is considered in academic circles to be the father religion of Judaism. What is interesting about that today is that Judaism is not attempting to expand. It is no longer seen as an expansionist religion apart from Israel itself, right? So you're starting to see the Zionism. Well, that's not a new thing, but Zionism is what is left of that expansionism. Now, when we look at Christianity and Islam fighting for dominance, I actually see that, sitting on the outside once again, looking at two brothers fighting, it does look like that is what is happening. But this is the nature of power, right? And this is a man-made structure, this competition, in my opinion. But other religions do exist, and a lot of them are longer, older, and well-established. Some of them had to be practiced in secret because they were either persecuted by Christians, and for the most part, it was Christians, or by Islam. And I say the most part it was Christian because Christian was not a European religion. Europe was conquered by Christianity. It was something, and hundreds of thousands of people died for Christianity to take the dominance that it had. And that doesn't even speak to the Amerindians of North America, Central America, and South America. So when we talk about the expansionism of religion, it is really something that is interestingly unique, in my opinion, to Christianity and Islam. Hindus are not trying to recruit. In fact, they're very, very protectionist when it comes to what they consider to be belongers to their faith, right? And it's a cultural belonging. Buddhism is not attempting to expand in the same way. It allows for entrance. And it's really, when you consider it's an offshoot of Hinduism, that's an interesting way of looking at it, but it's not an expansionist religion. Paganism is one of the fastest growing religions in the Western world. Between 2001 and 2008, I think was that period. Paganism in the United States had a 150% increase in following. And paganism, one of the actual tenets of that religion, and of course, no two pagans are alike, so they're very different. But one of the main things that holds pagans together is the belief that everyone has a right to what they believe in. So there is no expansion, no evangelism involved in paganism. So I say all this to say, and by paganism, I do mean the older religion that existed prior to Judeo-Christianity. So when we actually have this conversation, please remember that we are newcomers to the table when we're speaking about Judeo-Christianity and Islam. And being newcomers to the table, if you look back in the history of the world, a lot of death came into religion when we started to other people. And it was a precursor to the fascism that we see today. And I'm really speaking more to the callers today than to the guests, because I'm not really hearing that in your guests.
Yes.
But let's just be mindful that we are human beings in a journey trying to find the best way to do it. And each of us has made different decisions. Let's be respectful of the journey and the seeking, and let's not be nitpicking over the answers.
Yep.
So that's my invitation.
Thank you so much. And again, folks, a lot of this comes down to history and understanding the history of religions. And of course, if you know your history of world religions, you will know that Christianity emerged into a world already full of many older religions. It is not the first. And, again, if you look at that timeline that I just showed, it's all the way down at the bottom. It's considered one of the newer religions. There were, as the caller rightfully said, polytheistic religions all over the world: Egypt, Greece, Mesopotamia, Rome, Hinduism, various form of Chinese traditional Judaism, all predated Christianity by centuries or even millennia. That's how long. Christianity is relatively new. And the irony of it is, I will say, when she talked about the spread of Christianity, right? Spread in the Roman world, for example, first century Judea, and how that was done. You know, it is so incredibly interesting. I remember when I went to Greece a couple years ago, and we were touring one of the ruins, and they were saying how they can see how that initial foundation was done on the Greek religion, the original, you know, Greek gods and whatever. And then several thousand years later, the Christians came. And a lot of times what the Christians did is they destroyed everything in their wake to pretend like nothing existed before them. So they would knock down buildings, they would knock down churches, they did all of that. So in some instances, it was very unfortunate to have historical things destroyed all over, you know, Spain, France, Portuguese, British, Dutch countries. They just destroyed everything that was not part of their belief system. But in this particular ruin that we were at, they showed us how in this instance, they actually didn't destroy the physical structure. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 years later, they built on top of it. And you could literally see, I took a picture of it, and I'll have to see if I can dig it out of my Greek photos, because there's like 1,000 photos in that folder, but you could literally see the architectural difference in the brickwork, what those people did that predated the Christians by thousands of years. And then when the Christians came around, you saw how even the very brickwork changed, and then how they actually built on top of it. And so that's what they did. They either destroyed, tore down completely everything that was not part of their belief system, or they just built over it and asked you to ignore what was there previously. And there's actual historical buildings that you can see that transformation in. And so Christians colonized this world. Somebody had a comment up about how the Queen of Spain was, I'll come back to this in just a little bit, but the Queen of Spain and the Catholic Church funded Christopher Columbus' voyages and set the agenda to get rid of the natives he found in his discoveries. So even the very colonization and the very importation of, for example, the historic slavery that has impacted a lot of the Caribbean, and a lot of our forefathers, you know, came to this area of the world from Africa on slave ships. All of that, the missionaries that we talk about, the early missionaries, that was their sole objective, was to convert people. Your ancestors, y'all are sitting here swearing for Christianity, but 99% of you who are sitting there watching this show, we're here, they call it from the UK, who's obviously Jamaican. All of you your forefathers were enslaved Africans, some indigenous people, North Americans, the Indians and so forth, right? They were colonized populations and reshaped by Christianity. Your forefathers were not Christians. This is a new fandangling thing to you and your family. So I want y'all to think about that, because that is not even your history. African indigenous churches did not believe in anything like Christianity. Caller, welcome to the program.
Yeah, hi, Sandy. I just want to clarify something that was said earlier. But I want to ask a question to your guest. And it's unfortunate that when we discuss our faith, there's often opposers that interpret it as hate speech, which is very fortunate. But I want to clarify something, but I asked one question and I'll wait for the answer afterwards. To your guest, again, I welcome you as I did earlier. We're glad that you're on the air to share your thoughts. Do you support Sharia law, and not in the Cayman Islands, but do you support the concept of the Muslim Sharia law? And if you do, how would you interpret that to be played out here in the Cayman Islands? So now here's my clarification. I'll wait for your guest to answer that question, but I want to clarify something. I've heard you say in the past, Andy, that Christianity, and your younger guest at this call earlier, she said, like others, that Christianity is a new concept. It's one of the newest concepts, if I understand that correctly. You first hear the term actually in the New Testament given by Paul and in the book of Acts 11. You find this in Acts 11:26, where it says, and the disciples were called Christians at Antioch. That's the very, very first time you hear that. And that's around about 60 AD, right? So let me take you back to the book of John, the Gospel of John, chapter 1. Then I want you to tell me how old Christianity really is according to your interpretation. John 1 says, John 1:1 says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him. This is the Word. All things were made by him, and without him was nothing made that was made. In the beginning, he was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended not. My question to you, Sandy, when was the beginning of this earth?
Well, that's a question that I'd actually like for you to tell me, because in the Christian faith,
well, you may sound biased if I answer it.
No.
Wow.
Listen, the earth has been around for millions of years, but in Christianity,
that's what Neil deGrasse Tyson would say, but I disagree with that greatly.
Okay, well, there you go.
So, but I'm asking you, based on your interpretation,
how can you disagree with science? You have rocks and all sorts of things that prove the age of the earth to its core.
Sandy, I would really love to entertain you, but you would not permit me the time. So I'm asking you, when do you say is the beginning of our time, Earth's history? 10 million, 10 trillion, but when was the beginning? Earth's creation.
All right, let me get you.
So Jesus. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, if Jesus was in the beginning, walking with Adam and Eve, what religion preceded that?
Well, you listen. I have never.
I just want to be logical. Because I've heard this over and over and over. And I understand the ignorance, and I'm only trying to share and to bring clarification. I'm not attacking anyone. I'm simply trying to bring clarification. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. Genesis 1:1 says, in the beginning, God, and he says, let us make man in our own image. So this is Jesus Christ, Father, with the Holy Spirit.
All right, we've got someone who's got an answer for you. Just hold on. Hold on 1 second. We're going to just merge a call, I think, here. Yes, hello, good morning.
Hi, good morning again.
Oh, okay. I think you're not the person who had an answer for him. So let me just hold on. Let me add her. Yep, hold on. I'm going to just merge a couple calls here because caller.
Oh, I did not unmute.
Yeah, just a second. Oh, it's only allowing me to do one call. Someone wants to answer your question. So let's just take this call. And then we're going to, we got to start wrapping. Oh, shoot. I think I've lost everybody. Uh-oh. Hold on. We used to be more than 3 calls at once, but I don't know what happened there. All right. Hello? Let me see. Okay. Hi, caller.
Hi, I'm back.
Okay.
So I feel like that question was more for me than for your guest. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was more for me, I suppose, because he's saying, how do you go on?
Okay, so the age of the earth does not define the age of a religion, just because the religion claims to have been there from the beginning. Every single religion that exists on earth has an origin story. The Aborigines in Australia have an origin story from the beginning of the earth, right? The natives of South America, each one of them has an origin story of when humanity came to earth. So for us to say that something is written and it says that from the beginning we were here is a miscalculation. And I want to just also say something that is unique, in fact, to Abrahamic religions. And that is the taking of religious belief and mythology as historical fact. Even Judaism does not take its myths as historical fact. Myth has a purpose. It is a guidance of belief. It is a guidance of belief and relationship to the divine. Myth in itself has its own purpose. And then we attempt in Christianity, and I really won't venture to spread that to Islam because I don't know enough about it. But I can speak to Christianity, having been raised in a Christian household and really educated to the nth degree when it comes to Christianity, we take our myths as historical fact. And I would challenge a lot of those myths, especially in the origin story, right? How do we define a day? We say that God created the world in 7 days, but the way that we define a day is sunrise and sunset. But the sun didn't exist until what, day 4? Day 3? So I say all this to say, myth has its purpose, and it has a very powerful purpose in grounding ourselves in religion and understanding our purpose and our relationship to the divine. But for us to then take something that, and let's just remember who Paul was, right? Mm-hmm. Paul was a killer. Paul was a killer. His name was Saul. He murdered Christians. And then all of a sudden was hit by, on the road to Damascus, he was given this insight by God and became a Christian. Now, to me, sure, all very well and good. It discredits him to me. It doesn't necessarily have to discredit him to you. But this was also the one who wrote into the Bible a lot of the misogyny that we see that exists today. Right? So that was the reason why I had to put Christianity behind me. The othering and the treatment of women. And Paul was a major, major proponent of that. So to sit down and take what Paul understood to be fact in 60 AD, based on his interpretation of his mythology, I think is actually a dangerous place and starting point. You can't argue with someone who decides that God wrote the Bible, right? I mean, I give up at that point in time because I love that the Imam actually spoke to the fact that the Bible was written by multiple people. And it started out as a documentation of mythology and of belief and an interaction tool between ourselves and the divine. But it wasn't written anytime, so when you consider the first writing that was found, it was actually a prayer written by a priestess in Sumeria, which is Mesopotamia. And she was worshiping a goddess, and Christianity wasn't even a twinkle in God's eye at the time. It didn't exist. It was thousands of years after. So, and we can argue about the existence of the earth and how old the earth is, and then we get into science versus religion. But I find that to be exhausting and pointless because none of us are going to ever get to that answer to the satisfaction of someone who believes that God wrote the Bible. So I say all this to say, we have an option and an opportunity. And, it's such a beautiful opportunity because these are our brothers. These are our brothers that believe that there is one God. This is where we get to have a conversation as brothers around the kitchen table. And if we blow it here, how much worse would it be when we have to have conversations with people who believe things that are even further in difference from us? So that's all I got to say. Have a good day, and I'm not calling again. Okay. Bless you.
Thank you very much.
All right. I think one more caller was trying to get through, and then we're going to start to wrap things up. I guess the bottom line, folks, is we can sit here and certainly have these discussions forever. And nobody's going to change any minds. If you are steadfast in whatever your beliefs are, that's what it is. That's why I'm not here to convince people of anything when it comes to religion. Good morning, caller.
Good morning. I hope I'm not being annoying by calling again.
No.
But I just wanted to say 2 things actually. The gentleman caller who was commenting about how Muslims around the world, in historical times would persecute Christians and persecute Jews and force conversions and that. I just wanted to give a little history tidbit. Then I wanted to talk about something that's actually found in the Quran regarding religious orthodoxy, right? In the Muslim world, historically speaking, Christians and Jews were considered people of the book, right? And in Muslim ruled land, they had a status called they were called dhimmis, right? So basically, what they were under the protection of the Muslim rulers. So they were allowed to have their churches, they were allowed to have their synagogues, but in order to pay for that protection, they had to pay something called the jizya tax, right? And Muslims had to pay their zakat. They had to pay, which is like their tithing, their version of tithing. And the jizya tax was actually more than the zakat. So, I mean, if not for a religious standpoint, people looked at it and they said, well, it's cheaper to convert. So a lot of them did convert because of that. Now, with regard to the gentleman who was calling, talking about how old the earth is, and asking you to give an age for the earth. And I like what the previous caller just now said, you know, the sun wasn't created until the fourth day. So exactly how long was a day in the Bible? When it comes to religious orthodoxy and religious opinion, there's actually a term for it in the Quran. And the Imam can correct me if I'm wrong. It's called, I think it's pronounced zanna or zanna, which is basically just self-indulgent guesswork on matters no one can be certain of one way or the other, but only make people quarrelsome and stupidly sectarian. So I don't think that this conversation with the Imam and Miss Donna and Mr. Marco is about whether Muslims are right or Christians are right or Jews are wrong. I don't want us to lose
that's not
the
even, listen, the conversation, and I guess
it's
it
about
happens.
integration and living together.
Exactly.
All wrong.
Exactly.
Right? Let's not lose that.
Yeah. And that's where we started. And unfortunately, you know, like I said, when you start talking about religions and religious beliefs, this is the rabbit hole.
Everybody's up in arms.
Yeah, you almost cannot avoid it. But I absolutely agree. Because I had another person who just said, I really thought this show was going to be about Caymanians, culture, acceptance, diversity, etc., not a class and religious education. But of course, we can't control, you know, what people want to come in, call in, and what they want to say. And of course, then if, you know, people have to respond to that and whatever, it is what it is.
But let me make one final point.
Mm-hmm.
To everybody who's listening, especially to all of the religiously orthodox people,
mm-hmm.
have your beliefs, but for God's sake, pick up a history book, read. Nothing wrong with examining your beliefs. If what you believe is the truth, then the truth should be able to stand up to any scrutiny you throw at it. And if your truth cannot stand up, and if the truth can't stand up to that scrutiny, then that truth isn't the truth. That truth isn't strong. You're not strong enough. Pick up a book, educate yourself.
And this goes back to my point. And you simply choose to believe it because that is how you were raised. That is your, and that's why I keep saying, I see Carrie mentioned about how, you know, I'm always talking about my Aunt Lottie and she was a good Christian woman. Absolutely. But the difference is I understand that the reason why I believe what I believe is because I was raised by her and I was raised in the church and in the Christian faith. That does not mean, Carrie and everybody else listening, that I believe that Christianity is the only right religion, that everybody else is wrong, and that somehow a religion that came thousands or millennia after others somehow got it wrong and everybody else somehow got it right. My apologies. And everybody else got it wrong. The earth has been around for roughly, right? If we look at the evidence, 4.6 billion years. Human beings are a dot on that with proven scientifically, maybe 300,000 years, give or take a little bit. So, I mean, I'm a logical person, right? Despite whatever I believe religiously, and I believe those things because, again, yes, I was raised by an aunt who was religious and she was ignorant in a lot of different ways. I'm willing to accept that. So she exposed me to the Christian faith and taught me things in the Christian faith. And yet, because I'm a logical person, I look at the science and I know what the science says. And I know that in most instances, the science does not coincide with what my religious beliefs are. And instead of trying to castigate and curse out people and condemn other people for what they believe, I say, you know what? All religions are a construct for humans to try to figure out a path so that we feel better about what happens once this physical body dissolves. We all want to believe that there is more to life. We all want to believe that if you do good here, you're going to be rewarded, that there's a heaven, there's an earth, and all these other things. Human beings are very, very interesting people. Throughout history, we have constructed stories and myths and all sorts of stuff to explain what we couldn't at the time scientifically explain. Now, given where we are in our advances, we can scientifically explain and understand a lot of things. And there are those of you who refuse to accept the science. I don't refuse to accept the science. And I still say, well, if I continue to say, well, you know, despite what the science says, I'm going to remain ignorant when it comes to religion. I'm still going to want to believe this, but I know that I'm being ignorant and I know that that's a choice, then that's on me. But it doesn't mean that I don't know any better. But I can tell from some of your comments that some of you honestly do not know any better. That's why you blindly follow. Thank you, caller. Let's wrap up.
Thank you, caller. I think that I don't know who the caller was personally, but he seems very well read about Islam. I think if we could have a conversation, we could connect at some point. I think it'd be very beneficial.
He's very well read, generally speaking, I must say.
Right.
But you know, again, let's go back to how we started. Because ultimately, this is, I think, there's a couple things here. You know, we welcome all religious groups and all beliefs to have, we're doing CMR TV. We've invited people, Christian, there's at least one church that's already committed to having their church service on Sundays broadcast on our channels. You know, you're free to do that. There is religious freedom that's protected in the Constitution of this country. But I think ultimately it comes back to, as this very astute person says, this show came about today because Caymanians, culture, acceptance, diversity, that is the crux of who we are. Even though a lot of us are really not that diverse, to be honest, we don't like anybody who's different from us. We also have to accept that as Caymanians, we actually are extremely ignorant people. We don't want to hear anything different. We don't want to learn anything different. We don't want to hear that, you know, somebody eats chicken a different way than we do. But that diversity, and I get it as a country that oftentimes feels like, again, because factually we are now a minority in our country and everybody's coming from every place, it feels like it's suffocating us. And so because it feels like it is suffocating us, I think that organizations such as yourselves, the Muslim community, has to be mindful of that in the way that you conduct yourselves and the way that you know, have your meetings, the things that you say that could very easily be being taken out of context, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm glad to hear, because I didn't know I was going to ask you that question of how that clip even came to the forefront, but I'm glad to see that that was something you openly shared on social media. So it's not a meeting that was being hidden. And then sometime after it had been up, someone discovered it and took out a 30-second clip. And then here we are now spending an immense amount of time on a 30-second clip. But the lesson and the takeaway has to be that you are in the Cayman Islands. And I think that it's important for you guys, right or wrong, to understand that this is largely a Christian community, whether they're right or wrong, right? It is largely a Christian community. So you have to be very, very cognizant and mindful of the things that you say and do and how that could easily be interpreted to be offensive. No, I think we can all agree that there have been some lessons that have been learned here.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, definitely. No, 100% agree. I think this conversation it needs to come back to the basis of why we are speaking today as well. I don't think in one conversation I'm going to convince anyone about Islamic beliefs. Neither is anyone going to convince me about Christian beliefs. And we understand this is a Christian majority country, and we appreciate it. We are tolerant, we are happy, and we're just asking for that kind of tolerance and coexistence in return. I mean, when you look at the comments today, we're trying to wonder where that tolerance has gone, to be honest. But that's the truth about it. I just want to mention a few points. One is, of course, the question of tolerance, that as maybe people are fearing tolerance from our side, that if a Muslim community comes and somehow they grow to such an extent, and will there still be tolerance? And first of all, we're a speck, and we're not looking to grow, and we're not expecting that kind of growth anyway. But from a Muslim side, a Muslim should, I don't know if I'm not speaking on behalf of all Muslims, but I'm saying a Muslim should be one who is definitely tolerant of their neighbor, of the people around them, the people in their workplace, the people in the park with you, and that's the first thing. So we obviously want that basic minimum of tolerance for us, our families, our community, and we definitely would give that in return. That's the first thing about coexistence and tolerance. The second thing I wanted to say is that people shouldn't be judging any kind of person, community, race, culture upon the radicals of that, the extremists of that group. I mean, we can give so many examples of certain groups who have done a lot of good, but then there's certain radical, supremacist, fascist minds within that group. We can talk about America and the West, or we can talk about the East, we can talk about any. But if you're judging a whole 100 million, 100 million, a billion, 2 billion on them people, then we're just going to be going in the wrong direction. Like I think yesterday or a couple of days back, you were talking about a certain TikToker from Jamaica, but you kept clarifying that we're not judging, we're not saying all Jamaicans are like this. We're not judging the whole of Jamaica upon this one person and this small group. So we just asking for that kind of understanding and that kind of respect given to us as well. The third thing I wanted to say is that I feel we should be focusing on our similarities rather than our differences, be it in terms of our culture, our religion, or even our beliefs. Let's focus on what's similar, what keeps us close together. And I want to say, even as Muslims living in Cayman, we're actually very happy that Cayman has Christianity within its constitution or within its rulings, because certain rules are completely are in line with Islam. For example, the fact that gambling is not allowed here. This is something that we actually appreciate, because again, in Islam, it's not allowed, and certain other rules. So we are really happy for that. And the last thing I just wanted to mention is that, and Sister Donna would definitely be able to speak more on this, is that to be a Caymanian and to be a Muslim, these are things that don't clash or contradict. I think we have to bring it back to our local, where we are living on island. A person who's a Caymanian and a Muslim, or a person who's a Caymanian living with a Muslim, etc. These don't have to be clashes. There's no contradiction in these. A person being a Caymanian, this doesn't go against being a Muslim, and vice versa. So I think Sister Donna can definitely just give her thoughts on that, and I think.
Yep, and then we can wrap things up. Yes.
Good morning again, everyone. I have so many thoughts rushing through my mind, but I'll try to be as brief as possible. So I want to thank all the callers for calling in. The lady that said that the more we focus on our differences, it sort of breeds hate. I personally think that is true. If you look at the history of mankind, there's always been one group or another group fighting. And oftentimes it's because one group wants to be right. We all want to be right. And I feel like everyone just needs to be respectful and be humble. And as the next caller said, read for yourself, research for yourself, educate yourself, and be tolerant to others, because no one knows it all. We weren't there when God created the earth. A lot of the prophets over time, for example, saw their parents doing things that were not necessarily in keeping with the concept of one God, and they had to change. So over time, things have changed. Labels such as Christianity, Jews, it's evolved, right? So I feel like everyone just, should try to be respectful and humble and try to learn. And just be open-minded, because you might not fully understand something, and you might be able to learn something. I also think the caller that came in, he was very passionate about, Muslims moving to other countries. And, as you said, Miss Sandy, at the start of the program, anywhere in the world you go, there's good and there's bad. Pretty much. I can almost guarantee it. There's good people, there's bad people. And likewise, anywhere in the world that you go, there are cultural differences. Sometimes people take culture and think that is the principle of the religion, when it's actually not. It's just a practice. So I think, sorry, I lost my train of thought. I think, for example, like the whole topic of immigration, people moving, I don't see it as a us versus them situation. A lot of Muslims come here and operate within the legal framework that we have to work. A lot of Caymanians go overseas to work. Some stay forever, some stay for a few years for work experience, etc. And they come back home. And we have that privilege and we have that right. And we're able to do that, thank God, mostly in a safe way. So I think the tolerance, everyone can practice what they can. Islam is not a religion based on the Quran. If you pick up the Quran and read for yourself, it's not a religion where we're going to go out there and force people. It has to be a choice, you know? And I think to sort of promote anything else wouldn't be just. And I have one more comment regarding a comment that I saw about someone said something about, you know, ladies. I'm a woman, so I would like to respond briefly. Someone said something about women wearing, you know, all black and covering their face. So based on my understanding, Imam can correct me, the Quran, based on my understanding of what it says, women are encouraged, or it's required to cover your head. But you don't have to cover your whole face. There's no requirement to do that, you know. And as you walk around, like I walk around with my headscarf, I've been wearing it for about a year now. It took me some time to build the courage to do it, and I don't feel any sense of hatred from anyone. You know, people come up to me and ask me, "Oh, you look nice. You know, why are you wearing it, etc." So there is tolerance, and I hope that in Cayman we can preserve that. As one country, as one community. I think that's what makes Cayman special. You know, we're not afraid to talk about things that others might find controversial, and we try to get ahead of things. So I think we have a special place here, and I think we should all work to preserve that.
Okay. Thank you so much, Iman, Noah, Bana, and Ms. Donna. And of course, Marco was with us earlier today as well. Ultimately, people are going to believe what they're going to believe. I just wanted to give you guys an opportunity to explain that 30-second clip in the video and to give some context, if you will, to that. Obviously, we have, gone all over the place with this conversation today. And I think the one thing that it certainly demonstrates is the need for continued dialogue, even if it's just for us to find that common ground where we can express our opinions, because everybody's got one about religion and their religious beliefs. And I hope that some of you learned something today. I know some of you, unfortunately, came to the table with an absolutely closed mind and you were not willing to listen or hear. And this is on both sides of the table, probably. Both sides of the religious discussion. You're not willing to open up to anything else. And I guess that's your prerogative as well. You have the right and the prerogative to remain ignorant if you wish to do so. That's completely on you. But as with all topics really here, we do invite you to embrace and to open up yourselves to at least being open to truly listen to what people are saying. And Noah, Bahani, Iman, let me just confirm, because we saw people saying, oh, you guys are trying to push your way of living on us. You're trying to push your standards. Let me just understand that is not the objective in any way, shape, or form of the Islamic community here in the Cayman Islands.
Yeah, I don't know if people are assuming that Muslims, the Islamic Society came first and then the community, meaning as an organization. No, that's not the case. The Muslims came to work, they came to settle maybe earlier. And then when they had enough, then they created a small Islamic Society to get together for prayer, for different events, etc. Right? So this society has not been created to kind of push any agenda, to kind of force their own rules upon anyone. It's a non-profit organization. It's never had any of them kind of ideas. Our main work is within the community and some charity work and some community service. There's never been any talk of pushing our rules or our way of life upon anyone. If anyone thinks of anything otherwise, they can come with proof. Rather, we just we are hoping to just exist. I think you mentioned a couple of sessions ago, the Muslims have been under the radar, and we are happy being there because we don't need to have a spotlight shined on us. We just want to continue with our prayers. Like I said, faith is generally a personal thing. It's a personal or a communal thing, and it doesn't need to be pushed upon any other person. Like I always mention in my sermons as well, we're not going there and forcing Islam upon anyone. We're not pushing our Islamic identity upon anyone, but rather we remain a Muslim wherever we are. That's okay, without stepping over anyone's boundaries. So there's never be there's no Muslim running for any kind of government position. There's no Muslim trying to push or force any kind of Islamic rules, and there's never going to be any, because we understand that the constitution and the government in place, and this country is a Christian majority, and that's something we are certainly happy with and tolerant of. I just want to say also, with regards to that question of tolerance, from my own experience, I have had a few, more than a couple incidents where, because I've gone out with this dress, which is, we can't even say it's Islamic dress, it's more of a cultural Middle Eastern kind of dressing that people associate with Islam. And maybe I went to the farmer's market, I went to certain other places, and somebody saw me and then just started to preach about Jesus loudly after seeing me. And this is, so obviously I didn't react, and I just said good morning to them and continued my way. And a couple of other times, when somebody saw me like this and they've said whatever they've had to say, and I don't react. But this is something that we understand we'll have to live with. We are not going to treat you or treat that person who is being unreasonable in the same way they're treating us. That's not what our religion teaches. It's neither what Christianity teaches, to be honest. But that's just what I want to say. On the other hand, I have had younger children in Costules and different other supermarkets come to me and call me Jesus, because I guess from the drawings of Jesus, they see him wearing the long dress and they see him with the beard. And I've had a sister say that somebody's come up to her and called her Mary as well because of her scarf. And again, in the pictures, they see Mary. So I think that's kind of what I wanted to mention, like what you have said regarding and the one of the brothers he mentioned regarding Sharia law. I think he came up in a phone call, and he also came up on a comment. So I don't want to wrap up without somebody thinking we're hiding from any question. The Sharia law it's a way of life. It's a personal, first of all, and then it's a communal thing. Sharia, it teaches a Muslim or a person how to eat, how to drink, how to dress, how to be with their parents, how to be with their neighbors, how to live their life, how to be with the spouse, whatever. So that's the first thing. So it's a personal thing. And then as a community, if there was a Muslim leader and a Muslim country, a Muslim majority, then it would be implemented within the constitution. But there's no question of, people always try to say you're trying to establish Sharia law in the West. We say there's no question of ever trying to establish Sharia law in the West, because we know the Muslims are never, and will never be the majority. And we know the law it could be secular based or it could be Christian based, and again, that's something that we are okay with. So I just wanted to mention that when people always bring up this word.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for the conversation today. Certainly appreciate both of you, and of course, Mr. Marco, who was on earlier, coming on the program.
Yeah, and I would really like to express my appreciation, and all the people who have sent positive messages and those who have sent other kinds of messages as well. We appreciate all of it. I think there is room for more discussion. I don't know if it should be this as heated as this. Again, we didn't. This conversation was not really supposed to go into theology, but we could have separate stages and separate discussions regarding. We could talk about theology one day. We could talk about rulings. We could talk about ways of life, culture. We could talk about different aspects of our faith compared to other faiths, and we could do all of that. But again, we have to be respectful of each other. We have to be mindful. We have to be tolerant. We have to be kind. We have to be polite. And then that's when we can have a decent conversation and we can make some progress and understanding. And sometimes there is some misunderstandings that a person may have in their mind. And a simple conversation, a simple one-on-one talk, a simple ear that we lend will break down so many barriers. But I think these conversations should be had.
Okay. Very, very good. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Very much. Thank
you.
you. Take care.
All right.
Take
have
care.
a good one.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, folks. The final comment of the day says, if I, as a Christian-based belief person, moved to a country that Islam was a religious base, am I compelled to convert just because that is their culture? Or do I not have a right to practice what I believe? The comments are very indicative of hate and unacceptance and not becoming of Christian teachings. So someone else, I think, mentioned in the comment section that they had lived in a predominantly Muslim country and they were, free to believe as they wish. I would say realistically, anyone who went to a country that had a different predominant religion, a different cultural religion, a different predominant culture than yourself, then I'm sure that there would be challenges. Just as Iman said, he walks around in his traditional cultural outfit. There are people who say negative things, and there are people who, might make a more of a query of like interest, like, why are you dressed like that? I suspect that in a predominantly Muslim country, if you walked around, you would face those same sorts of things as well. To me, it really comes down to more of culture, and that our Caymanian culture is obviously very, very important to us. And, you know, it doesn't mean that we're going to disrespect other people in their culture. But I absolutely agree 1000% that ultimately you come here and you have to adopt to our cultural ways here. But I don't think that means that we should be disrespectful of, you know, if they choose to dress that way. I mean, that's on them. Some of y'all out in these streets with bonker cheeks and buttholes and everything else exposed in a government building. I don't agree with that. I don't think that we should tolerate that. But they'll tell you, well, that's part of my culture backyard. That's how I walk around. That's how I look. What's the problem? And I'm just like, yeah, but in Cayman, we're not about that flex, you know? So it is what it is. We will solve no religious wars this morning, no religious positions. It will be entirely up to you what you wish to believe, and you are free to believe what you wish to believe. So someone had a question here. Albert says, that wasn't Albert, it's somebody else. Oh, Tartarian, can we have the Cayman Islands Ministers Association on the show next? Tartarian, all churches, it's so funny you should say that, because all of the churches have been invited, and 99% of them obviously are Christian. I mean, in fact, I haven't even invited these guys officially, but all of the so-called churches, including the Ministers Association, have been invited, formally in writing, to have representation on CMR TV. We've had one. I want you to sink this in, Tartarian, because this has zero to do with me and everything to do with your so-called Ministers Association and churches. We have had one, right? Pastor, Jamaican pastor, one Church of God that has come forward, and they say, we want to take up this opportunity. And you'll be able to watch them every Sunday at, I think they're coming on at 11 o'clock for an hour and a half. I can't force conversations on people. When this issue with this video came up, I can tell you, I reached out to one person in the Muslim community, and immediately they said that they were willing to come on and they were willing to have a conversation. I didn't force them to come on today. Okay? So I just want to make that clear, as crystal clear as I possibly can. FAH said, do not mix culture and religion with religion. Unfortunately, FAH, for most people, there is zero difference between the two. I agree. And I firmly believe in separation of church and state. But I can tell you that most Caymanians probably would not agree with that. If you go to a function, whether it's a government function or not, they want prayer and all sorts of stuff, the Christian element of it, to be a very integral part of it. And if it doesn't happen, they get all up in their feelings about it. And it's a whole situation. Anyway, folks, on that note, I got some hungry belly people to feed, some seniors in our community. I can smell that good smelling curry chicken going on there. Miss Stacy's got that. I am going to head into the kitchen myself because I got to do the mac and cheese. So I'm going to get that going so that we can feed some of our seniors at the Mr. Amelia's Caymankind Action Committee group gathering today, where the seniors can come in and have, they get an opportunity to go out and have some fellowship with each other, play a little bit of dominoes. And once a month, we had committed to sponsoring their lunch. And so we're back on schedule today with the actual cooking of it, as opposed to just ordering them pizzas. So we will see you guys in a couple hours. I have a lunch date today, so I'm not going to be able to stay at the event, but I will bring the food, drop it off, and then be on my way to my lunch meeting as well. All right, beautiful people. Gabby says, Sandy, tell them your audience will be calling in with offerings. You see how fast they show up. Lord have mercy. FAA says, thank you for today. It was different and interesting. I appreciate it. Lots of people sent in very, very interesting and positive comments to say, that this person said earlier, this is a very interesting discussion this morning, educating and enlightening. I'm sad to have to cut off for a meeting. Please do more of these. So again, folks, you can certainly, you can certainly go and rewatch the show if you were not able to see much of it. Let me just say that I want to give our thoughts and prayers go out to Miss Jamaica, who had quite a fall yesterday. This is so incredibly shocking. She had quite a fall at the Miss Universe pageant where literally she just fell off the stage. It was shocking that this happened, but poor thing. I think she's going to be okay. They said she just had some scrapes and bruises, probably more embarrassed than anything else, but thank God it was not any worse than that. And one other quick thing before I go, I know the generator guy is here. He wants to check the generator as well, so I do really have to run. But the other quick thing that I want to say is I posted a video yesterday of an accident where a guy got literally licked off his bike because people are not paying attention. And, you know, driving on Cayman roads, I can tell you on a regular basis, I see people doing stuff that is shocking.
You consider whether to get a dash cam?
I want to get the full, hold on, I'm going to get the full video here for you guys. But yeah, people do stuff that is absolutely shocking. You see them not paying attention. You see them breaking the road rules, like just so much stuff. It's just crazy. And so for me, it is so interesting for people to claim, as they did in my video, that, oh, this must have been staged. I mean, first of all, how stupid would you have to be? And I'm showing now the full 5-minute clip, right? But how stupid would you have to be? I condensed it because I figured nobody's going to wait 5 minutes to literally see a 40-second clip. Okay, so I clipped it down so you could just see the accident. But how incredibly stupid would somebody be to stage an accident in order to sell you a dash cam? Let me assure you, we sold quite a few dash cams by now. You drivers out there, you are the best sales pitch that I could hope for. The reason why I started even selling the dash cams to begin with is because you guys are such horrific and horrible drivers. And on average, every single day, we have at least 6 to 7 accidents. So why any of you would be surprised that here we are again, having evidence of yet another accident, another person on Crew Road simply not paying attention. For the ignorant people who commented about, oh, this looks staged to me, this must be staged. This is my vehicle. I'm driving it, trying to get home. As you can see, 4:47, trying to beat that 5 o'clock rush hour traffic. And that is me driving. And I can assure you that there was no staging. I don't even know how you would stage it. I don't even know what that means. But you can sit here and watch it. See the cyclist? You can see him from right here. This is when he first becomes visible on the camera. Trust me. The only thing you need to know and look around is see the number of accidents in Cayman roads, and every single one of you should be rushing out there committing to get a dash cam. But you know what is so funny? When it's your day, when you have an accident and you didn't have a dash cam, that's when people tend to call, oh my God, Sandy, I wish I had one of your dash cams then. You're not going to believe what happened today. And the one person saying this and the next person saying that. The beauty of these dash cams is there's no argument about who said what, or not who said what, who did what. The dash cam speaks for itself. You see the clarity of that? Yeah? This is what I'm talking about. Somebody just said, boy, when I got in my accident, again, that one was a motorcyclist who ran straight into her. I got mine too. Was that staged to advertise your dash cam? Literally within a week of installing hers. Remember that accident there by, what is that complex called? Plaza Venezia, whatever, in that vicinity. The bike guy ran right into her. He's lucky he did not get seriously hurt. Nobody has to stage accidents, folks. Pay attention. No one has to stage an accident on these crazy roads out there. There's so many times I actually need to replace the battery in my remote control. I need to do that today. There's so many times that I see something, oh my God, timestamp. I need to show this on CMR to show you how bad drivers are. That A.L. Thompson's intersection the other day, you had to see how someone was pulling out in front of me. These drivers do not care. They are lawless. That is why the government is pushing this whole campaign now of safe users, safe drivers to try to reduce the number of fatalities on our roadways, the number of accidents. Now you see we're coming up on exactly where it happened. How are you going to stage this? Y'all do not see at the bottom of the camera. It has a timestamp. It has a geographical and physical location, your miles per hour, the date, everything. Who got time to be staging an accident when you have one in every corner? So here is the guy. I'm actually coming up on him now, but because of traffic, he's pedaling a little bit faster than me, right? Because he was up ahead. And you see me, I was trying to keep my distance, honey child, and boom, that's when it happened. So I'm going to pull up the full 5 minutes since y'all want to be challenging people. And to the other people who are like, oh, well, why didn't the dashcam person stop? I'm stopped to let them get out of the road and clear the road safely so I don't run them over. But I'm assuming the person who posted that meant that they expected me to get out of my car and do what? Crew Road has no shoulder, as you can see. The property lines are right there. There's nowhere for you to pull off, right? This was not, thank God, a serious accident. You saw him move his bike. His bike didn't seem injured. They wanted me to pull off and do what? Cause another accident for zero reason at all? I really hope that some of you could get something called discernment and common sense when you comment on social media. I mean, honest to God. Y'all just be shocking me left, right, and center. I don't even know what to say. Shaka says that I should do a show called Drive Times in Cayman. I mean, we would have so much footage. So much footage of just ridiculousness. Irvlin says, oh, how I love mine. And it's like you pay attention now, I find too, because your camera does capture it all. You really pay attention more when you have these cameras like, oh my God, did that person just do that? And this is not the first time I've actually caught an incident on my dash cam. All the time, on a weekly basis, I catch poor driving, the occasional accident, et cetera, people breaking the law and all sorts of stuff. Anyway, you guys have a wonderful and amazing day. My sinuses are a little bit congested today, but I can still smell that nice curd chicken. So enjoy yourselves. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Tomorrow's Friday. The minister should be on the program. And boy, I be trying to scoot over when I see somebody walking or cycling. I'm like, let me go over a little bit because I ain't trying to run nobody over so I can end up on my road. Oh, what a hot mess. No, sir. On that note, folks, behave yourselves and have a beautiful day.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM. Cayman's #1 talk show is live weekdays from 7:30 a.m. Never miss an episode again. Watch anytime on CMR's Facebook and YouTube channels for the latest show episodes. Don't forget to follow us online on our social media channels and visit CaymanMarlRoad.com for all the latest news and community happenings.